Choices loomed like shadows on the horizon. And somehow, amidst the storm and uncertainty, Alaric's fierce belief in me became a beacon I didn't know I needed. What I wanted was within reach. I just had to choose to grasp it. I took a deep breath, nodded into the phone, ignoring the heaviness in my chest. Let's explore our options. As I hung up, I could still hear their laughter swirling throughout the house, bringing warmth to the forgotten corners of my heart. It ignited a fire within, a determination to reclaim my voice, my father's legacy, and perhaps even my presence in this complicated relationship, driven by desires both dangerous and intoxicating. As I turned back to rejoin them, I felt every heartbeat, every whisper of doubt fall away. The storm raged on outside, but I held the power to choose how I navigated its chaos. Ready to change the world? I declared, joining them, determined to rise where shadows might fall. Absolutely, Alaric said, smiling, and though the buzz of laughter circled around, his dark eyes met mine with a promise, a challenge, a hope, inviting me to leap into the storm with him. Together. Chapter 34. A Fragile Truce. The kitchen shimmered in the soft morning light, the scent of freshly brewed coffee tangling with the faint aroma of citrus from the open window. I stood at the counter, my fingers circling the rim of a delicate china teacup, pretending the very act of making breakfast had weight. The clinking of utensils was almost rhythmic, a lullaby stitched together by the chaos of my thoughts. Outside, the distant sirens hummed an ominous tune, but here, in this moment, the world felt contained. For now, I had a fragile truce with Alaric. "Rebecca, are you planning on actually serving breakfast today?" Alaric's voice sliced through the peace, teasing, yet underscored with something more powerful. I turned, meeting his vibrant gaze, that unsettling mix of mischief and intensity lighting his eyes. "Maybe if you stopped lurking around like a shadow, I'd be able to focus," I shot back, trying to hold on to my composure as heat crept up my neck. It was a silly response, given the way I felt, like mere seconds away from unraveling under the weight of our recent conflicts. "I was merely observing the master at her craft," he countered, stepping closer. I caught a whiff of his fresh cologne, an intoxicating mix that sent my heart racing. There was something achingly intimate about his proximity, yet there was also tension, a tightening coil of anticipation and unresolved conflict. "Right, because breakfast is an art form," I said, pouring a steaming cup of coffee in an effort to stabilize the conversation. "What should I paint today? Scrambled eggs?" My sarcasm hung in the air, daring him to play along. Alaric leaned back against the counter, arms crossed, that trademark grin creeping onto his lips. "Surely you can do better than that. I envision a masterpiece. Maybe what's the fancy word? Omelette Florentine." I couldn't help but smile, a fleeting moment of ease amidst the chaos. "You're just avoiding discussing our actual plans for the estate, aren't you?" I stirred my coffee, deliberately ignoring the flutter in my stomach as he approached me, the friendly banter feeling like a thin veil over deeper emotions. "Touché," he said, taking a step back and motioning toward my right, where the window revealed a sprawling garden overrun with wildflowers. "But we can't ignore it forever, Rebecca. Half-truths and band-aids won't save what's left of your father's legacy. That much we know." "It's not just about my father's legacy, Alaric. This is my life too." My voice wavered, charged with tension, the truth clawing its way to the surface. "I need to find out what's best for me before diving headfirst into this reckless plan you've conjured." "I'm not reckless." His expression darkened, the line of his lips tightening as he stepped forward again, the heat radiating off him feeling almost magnetic. "I'm doing what needs to be done. If you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you." "Then maybe you should start being honest with yourself," I challenged, feeling my pulse quicken. "Everything you do feels like a calculated move." The air between us crackled, swelling with unspoken grievances. "Everything I do is to protect you," he thundered, his voice cutting through the tension interspersed by silence that felt heavier than before. "It's not just about your estate, Rebecca. Do you understand that? You don't get to decide what's best for me. Not when you're hiding parts of yourself," I fired back, my heart racing. Maybe it was the coffee kicking in, or perhaps it was the simmering dissatisfaction begging for release. The room felt charged, a kind of explosive quiet before a storm. "And what exactly do you think I'm hiding?" He leaned closer, his expression a mix of challenge and vulnerability. I could practically feel the waves of his presence enveloping me, swirling my resolve. "Do you really want to know?" My breath hitched, caught somewhere between fierce protection and the urge to succumb to the whirlwind he represented. "I want to know about the sabotage, the competitors you've sidelined just to keep me close." My words clashed against his chest like thunder, challenging the intimacy we had teetered upon. In an instant, the air shifted. Alaric's expression hardened, and the glimmer of carefree banter melted into something far more serious. "You think I've been sabotaging the competition out of some twisted jealousy?" "Yes. I mean, maybe not outright jealousy, but you want me around, don't you?" I crossed my arms defensively, but I felt what I said enter an alarming territory, a vulnerability I hadn't prepared for. He was silent for a moment, deep lines forming on his forehead, and for the first time since I'd known him, lost his command. Then, slowly, he replied, "Maybe because I wanted to protect you, not to push you." "Protect me from what?" The question hung in the air like a weight threatening to crash down, but it only sparked an urgent stalk toward him. "From becoming another target," he said, taking a step back again. "I can't let anyone take what's yours, especially when it's something worth fighting for. And you," he paused, his gaze intense, "you're worth fighting for." "Then don't fight me, Alaric. Fight with me." My voice quivered at the last word, a plea barely concealed beneath the anger. His eyes softened, revealing the depths I had come to recognize, and our breaths mingled in the space between us. Everything felt charged. "You can let me in. Maybe I'm tougher than you think." But beneath the intensity, a spark of understanding ignited. Alaric, the toughened figure draped in layers of control, was still just as afraid of vulnerability as I was. Our silhouettes stood framed in the golden light of the kitchen, and I felt raw in front of him, broken yet unyielding. Then, like a rising tide, his hand found its way to my face, and his thumb brushed softly over my cheek, a distance away from the maelstrom we had engaged in. The warmth of his skin against my own sent a jolt coursing through me. "I don't want to lose you," he whispered, almost as if speaking the words cracked open some silent barrier between us. "If you want to keep me, then show me what you're really made of," I challenged, emboldened by our quiet truce. Balloons of tension exploded in our throats, and before I could register the shift, he pulled me closer and pressed his lips onto mine. The kiss was slow and hesitant, yet heavy with years of unspoken desire. I melted against him, absorbing the warmth of his body as he deepened the kiss, igniting something profound within me. It started as a straightforward entanglement of lips, but transformed into something wildly intoxicating and urgent. Yet just as I felt the world shrink to nothing but the two of us, the retreat he had just taken with his feelings crashed back in waves. He paused, breathing in deeply. "We're crossing boundaries I didn't think we could handle. You keep me torn between wanting my independence and wanting you," I breathed against his mouth, a plea for more than just this euphoric exchange, a battle between need and caution. He pulled back, his eyes darkening. "Is it so wrong to crave both?" The question lingered, heavy with implication. Just then, the kitchen door swung open, and my sister Lydia burst in, breathless and oblivious. "All right, you two. I brought pastries because I heard there was peace in the Ashford residence." Alaric cursed under his breath, his rich laughter bursting forth much to my surprise, and a slice of tension relinquished its grip. "Perfect timing, Lyd," I called to her, our moment having unraveled, yet an understanding ignited in the air. Laughter seemed to echo amidst the chaos, and the intensity softened, leaving vibrant sparks lingering in the corners. "Have I shattered some romantic moment?" she teased, winking at Alaric, who was already recovering, twirling his coffee cup. "No, just rearranging the furniture," he shot back, eyes gleaming with a mix of mischief and something softer beneath it, something he rarely let me linger upon. "Good," she clapped excitedly, "because we've got a lot to do if we're going to save this estate of yours from becoming a rustic farmhouse exhibit." "We aren't in that much trouble yet, are we?" I asked with a hint of sarcasm, tugging Alaric's hand as I moved to the table, tentative in the change of pace, but relieved deeper feelings could rest beneath the surface. "Only if you two don't embrace your inner chef and accept these pastries as a form of fine art," Lydia chirped, placing a box of croissants on the table. Alaric smirked, relishing the moment. "Maybe the art of compromise can outweigh the burnt edges of your ambitions." His laughter melted away some of my defenses, but it reminded me that we had a fragile agreement to navigate. The warmth in the room settled with a kind of lightheartedness that soothed our earlier fireworks, yet there lingered a pulse of unsaid affections, like a thrill edging around the corners of an unfinished canvas, begging for color. The stakes were higher than before, and amidst the trivial banter, a kind of thrill thrummed beneath it all. And I found myself wondering if a truce could hold amidst a blend of passion and turmoil. Maybe we weren't just crossing boundaries. We were redefining the art of what it meant to truly battle through for something worth having. Alaric caught my gaze, a moment of devotion flickering between us, and I allowed a sliver of hope to slip through, even as the reality spun wild and daring around us. "Well, it's definitely going to be messy," Lydia interrupted, unknowingly providing a roadmap for our chaotic truce. "But frankly, I'm more excited for your grand reopening than any of us here realize." "Here's to messy beginnings," I said softly, raising my coffee cup before the tension returned, pulsing between us like silent electricity. And even while chaos was brewing around our fragile accord, the simmering promise of how it could evolve kept me rooted to the moment, alighting my very soul in a dance that felt forever incomplete, yet vibrantly alive. "Indeed," Alaric replied, eyes glinting with a depth I hadn't fully realized was there. "Let's make sure nothing worthwhile goes unnoticed." And I believed him. Chapter 35. Cloaked Intentions. The late afternoon sun poured through the grand windows of the Ashford estate, casting long shadows that danced across the marble floor, illuminated by the golden light. Dust motes floated lazily in the warm air, as if time itself had slowed down to watch the impending storm gather momentum. I flicked a glance towards the ornate clock on the wall. The ticking fell like heartbeat echoes, heightening my senses. Something was brewing, something tumultuous, and the weight in my chest mirrored the darkening clouds outside. Rebecca, my best friend Claire, called from the library, her voice a delightful counter to the heaviness settling around me. "You'll never guess who just walked in." The anxious energy in her voice was almost palpable, and my heart raced at her teasing tone. "Is it Gatsby?" I called back, half joking, half hopeful that my emotional anchor in this sea of chaos might still come to rescue me. "Better. It's—" I turned swiftly to face her, nearly colliding with a stately, leather-bound chair. "Is it someone from the Newport auctions?" I had been so caught up in the estate's restoration that I was behind on all the thrilling gossip from within our art history circle. Claire brushed her hands on her flowery dress, her eyes glinting with mischief. "It's Eric Donovan, the one who disappeared last fall." My stomach twisted with a mix of surprise and unease. Eric had been a familiar face in our circle, a charming dealer whose sudden vanishing had set off a myriad of rumors. Now he stood at the threshold of the library, his silhouette etched against the light of the setting sun. A quick glance around revealed I was alone with him, the spacious room enveloping us, creating intimacy, yet I felt exposed. "Rebecca," he said, a slight smirk dancing on his lips. "Looks like fate has brought me back." "Fate or bad timing," I replied, crossing my arms defensively. He noticed the shift in my posture, a glimmer of mischief in his eyes. Touché, he chuckled, stepping into the light as if his presence could command the room. Heard you're on a crusade to turn your father's estate into something remarkable. Ambitious, I commend you. Flattery won't get you anywhere, I replied coolly, especially not after disappearing into thin air. He stepped closer, lowering his voice conspiratorially. Let's just say I had my reasons. But enough about me. You've got more pressing matters. His gaze flicked toward the door, and I felt a surge of anxiety. More pressing matters? What do you mean? Before he could respond, Alaric's figure filled the doorway. He stood there like a dark knight, imposing and watchful, his intense gaze locked on Eric. The air shifted, charged with an electric tension, as Alaric's jaw tightened ever so slightly, a quick flicker that only I seemed to notice. But Eric was oblivious to the warning that rolled off Alaric in waves. Alaric, I said, forcing an easy smile. You remember Eric, don't you? Of course, Alaric replied, but his voice was colder than ice. What brings you back to Newport, Donovan? Business. Old friends, Eric said with a knowing grin. The subtext was thick enough to cut, and I felt the temperature drop between the three of us. Just then, Claire swept back into the room, undeterred by the rivalry curling through the air. Are we playing nice? She asked playfully, oblivious to the unspoken challenge sparking between Eric and Alaric. Rebecca and I were just catching up about her incredible plans for the estate. Catching up or hatching plots, Alaric quipped, a shadow of a smile tugging at his lips, yet his eyes darkened with a hint of concern. Plotting some great art heists, naturally, Eric chuckled, a little too confidently, unaware of who he was teasing. It seems Rebecca is keeping quite the company these days. Oh, you know how it is, I said, trying to laugh it off. Just the usual gang of charming rogues. Usual indeed, Alaric muttered, but his focus remained intently on Eric. I felt the walls close in around me, the tension between the two men threatening to suffocate. Let's not be coy, Eric leaned casually against the grand shelf that lined the library. If you're smart, Rebecca, you'll realize that Alaric might not be as protective as he appears. He's got secrets, too. Secrets are the currency of our world, Eric, Alaric shot back, each word articulated with a low, controlled intensity. If I were you, I'd tread carefully. Why play it safe? Eric challenged, raising an eyebrow. The dare hung in the air, heavy and electric. Because some truths shouldn't be uncovered, Alaric said, his gaze unwavering, a silent warning simmering underneath. Otherwise, it could cost more than you're willing to pay. A thick silence settled over us, broken only by distant thunder rumbling ominously outside. I was engulfed, the tension too frayed to unravel, too fragile to maintain. I sensed the spark, the electric connection that tied me to Alaric, unwavering and fierce. Are you ready to go? Alaric asked me suddenly, cutting through the tension. We could use a breath of fresh air. The slightest hint of relief washed over me, and I nodded, grateful for the chance to escape this electric standoff. Nice catching up, Eric. Let's do it again sometime, I said, my tone curt, an insincere smile on my lips. The implication was clear as I slipped my arm through Alaric's. The moment we stepped outside, the air felt charged and crisp, a stark contrast to the thick atmosphere inside the estate. I inhaled deeply, the scent of damp earth after a recent rain filling my lungs, and it carried the promise of something new, something waiting just beneath the surface. That was tense, I quipped, forcing a lightness I didn't truly feel. No kidding. Alaric glanced back at the estate, the lines of his face unyielding. Eric's a snake, always was, and I don't trust how cozy he is with you, Rebecca. I turned to him, my brow furrowing. I can be trusted to handle myself. Or do you forget how I've managed everything so far? He stepped closer, his voice dropping in intensity. This isn't just about you. You're not just a player in a game. You're the prize, Rebecca. That makes you a target. And you think racing in to protect me is the answer? The frustration rose in me, and I folded my arms, the print of my frustration etched in the way my fingertips dug into my skin. You don't see me as anything but your responsibility. That's not fair, he shot back, the distance between us charged with electric energy. You think I want to be like this? I didn't choose to be drawn into your world, but I'll be damned if I let anyone harm you. Or manipulate me to get what you want? I retorted, the words hurling like stones. His gaze darkened, the weight of his unspoken words heavy between us, accentuated by the impending storm. Everything I do for you. What I protect isn't just the estate, it's you. Each syllable wrapped around me, leaving me breathless, tangled in the complexity of our emotions. But just as quickly, the shadow of anger twisted my thoughts. I didn't want to be some delicate flower to cradle. I had fought for my family, ignited the passionate fire in my career. And what if I don't need that kind of protection? Rebecca, his voice cracked slightly, and I noticed just how close he was. The scent of him, a storm-tossed sea laced with cedar, wrapped around me like a spell. Well, I'm not some damsel, I said defiantly, unable to mask the pull I felt toward him. I don't need saving. But what if you do? He stepped into my space, an intensity locked in his gaze. What if the world around you is darker than you realize? It was a challenge. I tilted my chin up defiantly, and everything else faded in the thunder. It was just us. The noise of arguments and unsaid secrets worked like poetry around us, weaving claims and longings. Rebecca, he whispered, his breath brushing my ear like a feather, you unwittingly call the darkness into the light. It's dangerous to navigate a life like yours at all. Before I could respond, before my logic could argue with the truth clashing hopelessly against reality, his lips crashed against mine. The kiss shattered every doubt, wrapping my thoughts in a wild embrace of desire. His hand tangled in my hair, firm yet tender, guiding me into him as the world around us dimmed. I could taste thunder on his lips, a rush of passion sparking a firestorm. The kiss was hungry, urgent, and everything I both wanted and feared. God, I breathed against him, pulling him closer. You can be so infuriating. Yet here we are, he breathed back, his lips tugging up in that devastating smile. We shouldn't be. What you're feeling, it's real, he murmured, claiming my lips once more. The kiss deepened, my only thought that there were no bounds to what this man could unravel within me. Just a pair of bodies in the embrace of fierce desire, electrifying, beyond reversal. Outside, the storm rumbled softly, yet within this moment, we were safe behind our walls, heat curling like waves around us. We staggered back, my pulse racing as his fingers brushed my collarbone, igniting a firestorm, consuming everything I thought I knew about myself. One way or another, I'm coming for you, Rebecca, he murmured, his voice deep with unabashed promise. As I took in the weight of our connection, the warmth of his breath on my skin, I thought to myself, maybe this time, some connections could weather any storm. Chapter 36, Uncomfortable Revelations. The air in the cafe was thick with the bittersweet scent of dark roast coffee, mingling with the faint notes of caramel wafting from the pastry counter. Tired sunbeams pierced the available windows, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the warm light. I traced circles around the rim of my cup, my mind teetering on the edge of chaos. I wasn't just swirling sugar into my coffee, I was drowning my doubts in a toxic brew of apprehension and desire. Alaric leaned back in his chair, his dark eyes pinning me with unsettling intensity, and for a fleeting moment, all I could hear was the rushing beat of my heart. The cafe buzzed around us, friends chatting, laughter bubbling at neighboring tables, yet his focus forged an impenetrable barrier. It was comforting and suffocating in equal measure. You look lost, he said, his voice as smooth as the silk scarf he wore around his neck. But beneath it, I sensed an undercurrent of something more sinister. Just thinking about the estate renovation, I replied, forcing a smile. You know, sometimes I think I'm in over my head. Your father's vision could become something extraordinary, Rebecca. He reached across the small table, brushing his fingers against the back of my hand. The touch sent a jolt of awareness racing through me. but the heat was quickly extinguished by the reeling thoughts of uncertainty. Did I truly know him? Beneath that winning smile and the charm that wrapped around me like vines, what lay hidden? A flood of jealousy surged within me, igniting memories of our last fight, the simmering altercations about trust lingering between us like a dense fog. I need trust, I said, keeping my voice steady. I can't continue to play this game without honesty, Alaric. What are you really hiding? His eyebrows furrowed, and for a split second the mask slipped. Rebecca, enough. Don't you dare deflect. My voice cut through the cafe's sounds, quickly drawing a few inquisitive glances. This isn't just business for me anymore. I took a steadying breath, fighting to keep my composure. If you want me to partner with you, then be transparent. I deserve that much. Transparency? He scoffed, a hint of mockery dancing in his gaze. You have no idea what it entails. You, of all people, should appreciate the importance of secrecy in our line of work. Our line of work? I shot back, heat pooling in my cheeks. Is that what this is? Work? Because it feels very personal, Alaric. It feels like you've tangled yourself into my life like a weed I can't seem to uproot. Maybe I did that because I want to protect you, he responded, lowering his voice to a near whisper, the intensity rendering the bustling cafe distant. You don't see the dangers lying just beneath the surface, the ones who wouldn't just sabotage the estate, but would go far beyond that if they catch a sniff of your ambition. And there it was again, that strange mix of vulnerability and aggression that often defined our encounters. My pulse raced, caught between the promise of adventure and the cold edges of bitter truth. Protect me? You're the one who's hiding things while putting me at risk. I don't want to live in fear of the unknown, Alaric. A brittle silence enveloped us as he leaned closer, a myriad of emotions flickering across his face. You think I'm the threat? His voice dropped. I read people. I care about you, Rebecca, whether you believe it or not. I opened my mouth to retort, yet the sincerity warped the sharpness of my ire. Mora, my best friend, made her entrance at that moment, a tornado of stormy curls and vibrant laughter that seemed to part the tension in the air. Well, well, if it isn't the power couple of the year. Should I applaud or leave you two to settle if this relationship can survive the apocalypse? Mora, I said, relief washing over me. Perhaps we're just fighting the good fight for clarity. She plopped down at our table, her coffee already in hand. Clarity, huh? That sounds far too mundane. You need more drama in your life. Alaric, only you could manage to create a thrilling soap opera just by having brunch. Alaric smirked, his irritation momentarily lifted. You haven't seen the half of it, Mora. Oh, really? The gleam in her eye danced with mischief. Do tell, what are we working with? An evil twin? A dark family secret? An unearned inheritance? I shot her a glare. This is serious. Serious. She leaned back, crossing her arms defiantly. If it's that serious, shouldn't you search for the truth? Rearranging furniture won't fix the foundation of your relationship, Rebecca. Secrets will come back to haunt you. Maybe I'd prefer monsters under my bed than skeletons in my closet, Alaric said, his tone shifting, becoming sharper. No one ever truly escapes their past, regardless of how much they try to conceal it. You know that. Mora snapped her head toward him. Do you? Because it sounds like you've made a fine art of hiding. Why don't you just share the juicy morsels, Alaric? Maybe it's not my place, he said, flashing a sturdy smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Maybe not everything is as thrilling as you'd like to believe. A moment of sorrow clouded his expression, and I felt the weight of the world shift on our shoulders. You can tell me anything, I urged, even if it shakes the very ground we're standing on. The truth is like a storm. It's better to weather it together than dodge it. There's strength in heroes and monsters, Alaric finally said, the shadows creeping back into his demeanor. They often wear the same mask. He locked his gaze onto mine, and for a heartbeat I felt the world unfolding, layers of him beckoning to be unearthed. If I tell you my truth, his voice faded, and his fingers grazed my knuckles, sending warm urgency rushing through me. You can't ever unhear it. Try me, I urged, leaning forward, my heart thrumming with the rush of anticipation. Before he could respond, laughter erupted from a nearby table, where Seth, our mutual friend with his golden curls and infectious charm, had overheard our heated exchange. "You two are thick as thieves, but we all know the truth is a slippery little thing," he laughed. "You need to get it straight, or you'll end up caught in some messy web of secrets." Alaric seethed with barely contained frustration. "Thanks, Seth. Good advice." Seth raised his hands in surrender, planting an easy grin on his face. "Lighten up, my dude. I'm just saying, the longer you let your past cling to you like a bad breakup, the messier it gets. Don't let it ruin the thrill. Besides, there are plenty of hot women out there." The tension shifted again as laughter surged, but my apprehensive heart couldn't quite let it go. "That's not the point, Seth. This is about loyalty and trust." "Ah, trust," he replied dramatically, leaning over the table, his voice dipping conspiratorially. "The bedrock of any relationship starts to crumble when secrets lie in wait. Rebecca, I'd rather get a face tattoo than keep secrets from you." "Trust me, you don't want either scarring or ink," I teased back lightly, attempting to inject a bit of levity into the unbearably tense space between Alaric and me. "Fine," Alaric interjected, slicing through the banter like a knife. "You want me to be transparent? You really want to know?" My heartbeat quickened at his prompting. I wanted truth, but feared the enormity of its revelation. "Yes." He paused, searching my face for whom knows what, but then his walls began crumbling. "I was involved with people more dangerous than you can imagine. My past is a storm that hasn't blown through yet. The people I'm tied to won't let me walk away just because I want to. Cutting ties isn't as simple as severing a thread." "What does that mean for me?" I whispered, my heart fluttering like a trapped bird, wings frantic against the bars of its cage. "It means, Rebecca, you could be in danger," Alaric said, and it felt like a thunderclap rolling through the warm cafe air. "And I don't want to drag you into my chaos." Seth fell silent, eyes darting between us. "Hell, man, you've really gone and done it. That took bravery, just putting it all out there." "Isn't it always the ones you love that put you at risk?" Alaric added, his gaze steady on mine. "I wanted to protect you, but now you know." The silence dripped heavily, thickening with unsaid words, as if the cafe had suddenly dulled around us, isolating us beneath a terrible weight. It drew to an apex when Morris' phone buzzed, slicing through tension like a siren call. It's Helen. Excuse me while I deal with her latest drama." She stood abruptly, eyeing me with a knowing glance. "You two better sort this tempest out while I'm gone." When she walked away, silence enveloped us like a fog, our tension morphing into a tangible force. "I don't want to be a casualty in your past." My voice broke, barely a whisper. "Do you see how you embolden me, Rebecca?" His voice lowered, fraught with urgency. "You ignite a flame I can't snuff out." I felt a surge of emotions, raw and disarming. In the charged air, the truth lingered between us, like kisses denied, passion veiled. "Then let us cut through the haze, Alaric." And just as he reached for me, the door swung open, and there was Olivia, my former colleague, striking and impeccably put together, and just as everyone else had promised, she was trouble. Her eyes landed on Alaric and widened with recognition. "Well, this is quite the surprise," she said, sweet but edged with danger. "Do I smell tension in the air?" "Can we help you?" Alaric snapped, irritation palpable. "Just wanted to say hi, but clearly I might be interrupting something important," she replied, the corners of her mouth curling upward. I glared, feeling the fresh wave of jealousy wash over me. I turned sideways, facing away from them. "Alaric, we were just discussing." Don't mind me," Olivia interrupted, wavering her hand dismissively. "Don't let me keep you from your dynamic tete-a-tete. After all, relationships are complicated, and I'm all about openness." "Relationships don't rob people of trust," I shot back, the words echoing in the rapid-fire exchanges dancing between us. "What are you doing here, Olivia?" She sidled closer, her gaze fixed on Alaric, as if I weren't there, as if she were peering into his soul. "This is the art world, darling. We're all intertwined. You'll see. But you do look out of your depth. If I were you, I'd tread carefully." She turned to Alaric, and her smile took on a different tone, a silk veneer holding threats beneath. Don't let her push you, Alaric. You don't have to play the nice guy. We know the truth of your past after all. Every word hung between us like a razor, severing the atmosphere once more, escalating my uncertainty. Leave, I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. You're making this worse. Ah, is little Rebecca feeling protective? She cooed, feigning innocence. Because if this becomes more than it seems, let's face it, Alaric's past will come creeping in until it tarnishes everything. Enough. Alaric's voice was low, deceptively calm, but somehow charged with untamed emotion. You're walking on thin ice. As she smirked, breezing past my feeble glaze of strength, I felt a shiver creep down my spine. The tension twisted and grew, the continuous ramification of secrets obscuring the truth. It pounded within me, unyielding. Olivia made her way to the exit, pausing only to glance back. I'll see you around, she tossed airily, her laughter trailing behind her like a ghost. As the door shut with a practiced cadence, the air thickened once more, pressure choking me. I turned back to Alaric, the rhythm of my breath quickening. You have something to explain. What did she mean? Are we back to secrets then? He pressed, eyes narrowing. You think talking about my past with Olivia solves anything? With frustration boiling over, I leaned forward, my tone bordering desperation. Then what is it? Am I just another passerby in your chaotic history? No. Alaric's fist thudded against the table, rattling our plates and silencing the chatter around us. You're more than that. Then show me before it's too late. The plea hung heavy, a fragile thread hovering between what we had and the growing uncertainties flaring around us. He reached for my hand, and for an instant, I thought we might dive into something profound, an unbreakable bond of trust until the guilt shrouded my heart like a shroud. I yielded, craving his touch as much as space. It's complicated, Rebecca, he admitted, anguish warring with determination on his face. And I can't promise you safety from my shadows. Panic surged, pulsing in time to my quickening heartbeat. I don't want to spiral into your darkness, Alaric. I want my future clear of the past. If we're going to persist, I need to know everything. With us, there can be no half-truths. Are you ready to face that with me? He breathed, the warmth of his breath brushing against my skin, invoking confusion in the storm brewing just outside the cafe's serenity. I wrestled with the uncharted territory of vulnerability blooming within. Yes, but I need to know I'm not just a bandage for your wounds. The flicker of hope ignited again, illuminating the craggy recesses of my heart. Alaric shifted, closing the distance between us. Whatever comes, I won't let you navigate it alone, he persisted, darkness mixing with genuine yearning. And then, as if the world melted around our vulnerability, we leaned in, exposing our fears, enriching our connection with stolen kisses that ignited every inch of my skin. The touch of our mouths summoned echoes of our unspoken truths, my bravado crumbling as we fell into a rhythm of passionate urgency, bodies vibrating with the sheer need for one another. Lost in this transient moment, the world faded as our emotions intertwined, melding into chaos and clarity, desire and danger, until nothing else mattered but us. This was our battleground, a tapestry of secrets bound by yearning, where trust rested on the razor-thin edge of honesty, and love, indeed, became the force that dared to conquer all. Let's run away, I whispered against his lips, laughter escaping, riveted by both fear and elation, daring to defy the darkness looming ahead. Never felt more alive, he replied, his gaze fierce, the promise of a reckoning glinting in his eyes as we braced for whatever unfolded next. Chapter 37, The Importance of Legacy. Do you really think you can just charm them all into selling their shares? I blurted out, my fingers drumming against the surface of the aged oak table that commanded the sunlit dining room. Outside, dark clouds gathered ominously, casting an uneasy shadow on the gathered crowd and the hastily arranged charcuterie spread, artfully arranged cheeses and glistening olives that felt too extravagant for the tension thickening the air. Alaric leaned back in his chair, an infuriatingly composed figure amid the spiraling chaos. His eyes, sharp and calculating, flitted from person to person as he considered his response. Rebecca, legacy isn't just charm, it's about the right strategy and perhaps a little persuasion. The way he said persuasion sent a ripple of unease through me. Did he mean influence or something more nefarious? Persuasion? I shot back, a wry smile curving my lips. You make it sound so civilized. Are we building an estate or staging a coup? Enlightened self-interest is often more powerful than goodwill, a smooth voice chimed in. Aiden, my old college friend turned rival, was seated opposite Alaric. He had an annoying habit of siding with whatever sounded most controversial. If people feel invested in the outcome, they'll come around. Be the leader they want. Or the one they fear, I murmured, glancing at Alaric, whose lips twitched with amusement. He knew how to tease out my frustrations into new levels of clarity, yet I couldn't shake the feeling of being trapped by my own ambitions. Fear can be effective, Alaric admitted, the corner of his mouth twitching like he was indulging a dark joke. But let's not forget that charm has its merits too. He winked, briefly letting the mask of harsh business fall as light flickered in his eyes. Charm doesn't pay the bills, I retorted, the dogged desire to ground this discussion in reality overshadowing my earlier attraction to his subtle way of exploiting vulnerabilities. This was a meeting about my family's legacy, and I felt the weight of it crushing down on me, framed against this tumultuous weather. Then we should focus on showing people just how profitable maintaining the estate can be, Aiden interjected, swirling the red wine in his glass, contemplating its depth as if it held the answers to life itself. Marking it as a cultural haven, letting people appreciate its potential. Aiden, I'm grateful for your input, I said, yet heat gathered beneath my skin, sharp with jealousy. But are you advocating for the estate or your personal brand? Aiden faltered slightly, not used to being challenged. Alaric, ever the consummate observer, smirked as he leaned in. It's clever. You catch him off guard, you send a message. Just remember to play your cards right. Whose cards? I demanded, suddenly aware of how everyone in the room leaned in to witness this fraud exchange. Because last I checked, we're discussing my family's legacy, not a poker game. His gaze turned serious, and with that shift sparked a deeper tension that curled around us. He was urging me to navigate my anger into something productive, without letting my emotions stray too far from the goal we had. The assembled board members exchanged looks. The rising thunder outside echoed their uncertainty. A storm was brewing both inside and out. Rachel, isn't it? A soft voice piped from the far side of the table. Sarah, Aiden's fiancée, quietly sipped her drink, her expression neutral, but with intention. What do you think? I turned to her, relieved for a moment's break in the escalating storm. I think we need to present a united front. They need reassurance that our vision aligns with their interests, and it's not just about profits. Exactly, Aiden countered, which means we need to respect their traditions too. This estate isn't only about dollars and cents. It's about our shared history. But our shared history doesn't pay for repairs, I sighed, gripping the edge of the table harder as my pulse raced with every heartbeat. There's a legacy that's crumbling beneath our feet, and I won't let nostalgia drive us into a wall. Rebecca, Alaric interrupted softly, leaning forward as his voice dripped with reassurance. This is your moment. You have the power to make it into something they cannot resist. Trust your instincts. He leaned in, giving me a glimpse of that exquisite desperation that lay behind his careful confidence. Why do you care so much about this place? I shot back, catching myself before I spilled his secrets regarding the sabotages that had terribly muddled our course. What's at stake for you? A sudden tension gripped the room, causing breaths to hitch. Everyone was waiting on Alaric. In his commanding quietness lived the key to my growing obsession and fear. Everything, he finally responded, his tone serious. Shifting legacies disturbs the balance of everything we know. That's why we're here. His gaze, unwavering from mine, held the weight of a declaration. Just as I was about to respond, the sound of heavy rain against the windows darted my attention, eerily juxtaposing the weighty moment. Outside, nature boiled over, a perfect metaphor for our discussions, ripe with emotion and strife. Okay, hold on. Aiden stood, pacing restlessly. Let's not lose our focus here. Focus? Did you just say focus? I raised an eyebrow. When did any of us actually focus on anything but our own ambitions? That is precisely the issue, Alaric interjected, tension electrifying the air. If we aren't focusing here right now, we'll lose everything. He slammed his palm down urgently, causing the glasses to rattle. I recoiled, surprised at the intensity of his voice. Everything? The estate, or your hold on me? Both, all of it. You can't keep side-splitting between your ambition and your… What? I snapped, heart racing as feelings boiled over. My desire for connection, for meaningful work? The word work echoed in the silence, and I hated its finality, like a slap in the face, grounding me in reality once more. Rebecca, you are going to burn out, Aiden protested, his tone inflected with concern. You can't do this alone. The emotional plea pierced through me, discordant with my rising need for control. I'm not alone. You may not believe it, but I can navigate this. I can do it all. Will you? Alaric shot back, his voice low yet thunderous. Will you really? In that moment I felt a fissure open up within me. Maybe I don't want to. Perhaps I want to embrace a legacy of chaos, push against the tides. There was a hush, not just in the room, but in my heart, a war raging at the edges. Rebecca, Alaric's voice softened, losing some of its edge. You don't need to wear the weight of this alone. What do you truly want? The question dangled, raw and expectant. I could smell his warmth, cinnamon and smoke, and it plagued my resolve like a seduction. I hesitated, the honesty of my yearning colliding with the stakes surrounding my past and future. I wanted him, but meeting him felt perilous. I want to preserve what's left without losing myself. His gaze bore into me, grounding me amid the storm that hung over us all. Then let's save it together. But just as the words hum in the air, thickening with unresolved tension, a hard knock came at the door, shattering our moment. Let me guess, it's the committee here to scrutinize our every move? Aiden's tone shifted to annoyed disbelief. We're not hiding in here, I shot back, resolve rallying as I pushed away from the table with urgency. This is a family affair. The door swung open, and in walked a deluge of board members, faces tight with expectations. Folks, the rain isn't the only storm we have to manage today, I called, asserting my authority despite the wild throbbing in my chest. The atmosphere crackled, and against the backdrop of the gathering storm, the chaotic interplay of ideas and the weight of familial legacy brushed against passion and betrayal. What will it take for us to work together? I asked, the words heavy with intent, ready to confront the tempest of my own making. Small murmurs surged, cultivating a ripe discontent among the members. Alaric stood, a confident sentinel by my side, solidifying our bond against external threats. Perseverance, he announced, eyes flaring with protection. And untamed passion. We're building not just an estate, but a legacy. The dynamic shifted. Raised voices began to tumble into laughter. Narrowly avoiding chaos, sauntered into camaraderie. Together we would face whatever storm brewed, even if envy and love wrapped around us like battling vines. A tempest lay in wait outside, but here, in that grand room, an emotional election was underway. As I prepared to steer this ship through treacherous waters, I saw Alaric's eyes glimmer with intention. Whatever we face, I whispered to him, we'll make sure the legacy of Ashford is untouchable. Together. And it was there in an eye of the storm, amidst laughter and pain, hope and jealousy, that I felt a flicker of fire ignite within me. I just needed the will to wield it. I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that. Chapter 39, Complications of Affection. The sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the family estate, casting a soft, warm glow across the wooden floors, illuminating the dust motes dancing like tiny spirits. As I prepared for the upcoming board meeting to fund renovations for what could be the heart of the community, I felt the stirring of anxiety in my stomach. A fluttering swarm, unsettled and chaotic. I stared at myself in the antique mirror, its frame ornately decorated and reflecting not just my image, but the storm brewing just below the surface of my complicated heart. Should I have worn something more formal? My trademark red blazer felt both too much and not enough. Today was critical. I was prepared to fight for what was mine, yet it was Alaric's voice that echoed in my head, reminding me of the web of secrets enveloping him. My resolve wavered as I recalled our last night together. The sharp banter, the charged silence, eyes locked like magnets, shivers of heated possibility thickening the air. I could still taste the wine from his lips on mine, bitter and sweet. "Rebecca, are you almost ready?" Marisol's voice cut through my reverie, bright and teasing. "Almost," I called back, forcing my exterior to align with the energy of my best friend, trying to summon a facade of confidence. Just as I pinned my hair back, the door swung open with a dramatic flare that nearly made me chuckle. Marisol, ever the vivacious ball of energy, stood framed in the doorway. "You look too stunning to fight a battle over funding. I fear the board might lose their minds looking at you." "Thanks for the compliment, but it's less about looking good and more about holding my ground," I replied, biting my lip as I tried to maintain my facade. "Right," she scoffed with a roll of her eyes. "I have a feeling it'll be more of a circus than a board meeting. And speaking of clowns, I saw Alaric lurking outside like a wolf." The fluttering swarm morphed into a heavier weight. "He's just worried. It's a broken record at this point." "But is he?" Her brow furrowed as she stepped closer, resting her hands on her hips. "Or is he just playing his usual games with you?" I drew in a sharp breath, searching for an answer buried deep within the whirlwind of my emotions. The very thought of Alaric navigating his charm offensively tinged my heart with frustration and intrigue. "He's complicated." With a dramatic flare, Marisol collapsed onto my bed. "Honestly, what man isn't complicated? They live for the drama. But do you need more complexity right now?" A knock at the door interrupted my response. I straightened as Alaric strolled in unannounced, an unsettling blend of confidence and concern etched on his chiseled features. His gaze zeroed in on me, absorbing every detail of my appearance as if I were an art piece he couldn't quite fathom. "Are you ready?" he asked, his tone softer than usual, yet laced with an underlying urgency. "Just about," I said with a forced smile, aiming to quell the unease gnawing at my insides. "Ready to tackle the board?" "Be ready for anything," he warned, giving me a fervent look that both comforted and unsettled me. "They'll want something from you." Marisol shot me a glance laced with skepticism before she pushed herself off the bed. "Well, I'll leave you two to it then. Don't get lost in each other's eyes," she joked, but there was a wisdom veiled within the humor that I didn't want to acknowledge. When she swept out of the room, silence filled the space between us. Alaric took a step closer, fidgeting slightly with his cufflinks. "You're still pretending this is just a meeting, aren't you?" "Pretending? What do you mean?" My voice held a playful edge, mixed with genuine curiosity, unsure of where this was heading. "The stakes are much higher than that," he said, the warmth between us crackling like a live wire. "These people won't just be looking at your plans, they'll be looking at you, for weakness, for vulnerability." "Wow, thanks for the pep talk," I replied, sarcasm slipping through the layers of tension hanging thick in the air between us. "Just be careful," he said, eyes narrowing slightly. "You know how they fear anything different or bold." "Like me?" I challenged, crossing my arms. "Not everyone is a game to be played, Alaric." He clutched the edge of the door, the muscles in his arms flexing. "It isn't just you. It's us. This entire situation. You don't understand how precarious it is." "Because I'm too caught up in my ambitions?" The raw edge surged in my voice, and the space between us felt electrically charged. "Because I'm trying to keep you safe," he shot back, stepping forward, his intensity igniting a fire deep within me. "Safe or compromised?" I couldn't hold back the rising tide of frustration. You act like you know best, but do you know me at all? Our eyes locked in a silent battle, and although I felt momentarily drawn to him, heat from our argument made the air thick. The silence grew heavy, punctuated only by our breaths. I could see the flicker of resolve in his gaze, the potential tipping point trembling between us. Suddenly, it broke with the abruptness of a thunderclap, a ripe longing eclipsing our tension. He stepped closer, brushing a stray tendril of hair from my cheek, and in that moment, something primal sparked between us. "I can't lose you, Rebecca," he murmured, his voice almost desperate. "But you make it so easy for them to target what we have." "Maybe you're the one who targets me." The words slipped out before I could catch them, too easy to cling to the fray of irritable longing. I wanted to shove him away, yell at him for crossing lines that felt dangerously intoxicating, yet inherently perilous. 100 unsaid things buzzed around us, the gravity of what we were threatening starting to swirl into chaos. "There's more at stake than you know," he said softly, an ineffable sadness haunting his tone. "Like what?" I challenged, but as I did, I felt the distance between resolve and surrender collapse. "What I'm capable of to keep you safe." He leaned closer still, the heat radiating from him, igniting the air around us. His breath brushed my face, and I almost forgot the whole world beyond this moment. "Like sabotaging my competitors?" I pressed, but my voice cracked, not with anger, but yearning. "I will do whatever it takes," he replied fiercely, the moment expanding into something explosive, raw, and painfully exhilarating. A knock at the door jolted us apart, the tension snapping with the sound, our argument hanging unanswered in the charged atmosphere. Marisol was back, joyfully unaware of the gravity that had just unfolded between us. "There's food downstairs if you two need a snack," she called out, all too cheerful and oblivious to the smoldering fire. Alaric turned to me, eyes still alight with intensity. "This isn't over," he mouthed silently, as if sealing some unspoken pact we'd forged in that fleeting moment. "I wouldn't dream of letting it be," I whispered back, my insides coating with both trepidation and excitement. Upon descending the grand staircase, the airy white walls echoed with the sounds of laughter. In the midst of it all were familiar faces, my board members blending awkwardly with friends, people either oblivious or ready to devour my next move. I scanned the room, playing the facade of calm in case the heaviness of earlier lingered, and collided with Alaric's searching eyes amidst the crowd. Secrets passed between us with every narrow glance. A silent dance of plots and mockery beneath good-natured smiles. Marisol approached me, spiking her drink with a hint of brandy. I could sense the predatory eagerness of whispers ready to seize the moment, ready to weaponize my presence here. "Well, it seems my reputation precedes me," I said, casting a sidelong glance at my colleague, who was unabashedly relishing his own prowess. Alaric leaned closer, conspiratorial. "Reputations are a curious thing. You never know when they'll turn to bite you." "Like a viper," I murmured, feeling the weight of his presence shift. "Or like a beloved friend in disguise." His voice lowered dangerously, thick with tension. I felt a rush of heat swell within me, an undeniable pull nudging my thoughts into a spiral of intrigue. The room shifted around us, voices mingling, but all I could perceive was Alaric's presence, the way the sparks flew between us, igniting questions yet unanswered. "We'll have our own showdown later," I promised, urgency swimming in my words as the crowd began to filter away, chairs scraping against the polished wood floor. Maybe we both craved the thrill of venturing into dangerous territories. "Showdown? Or just some quality time?" he asked with a tantalizing grin as the storm raged beneath our skins. "Depends on how you define time," I answered, a smirk stretching my lips. "Rebecca," a voice rang from across the room, my focus torn away, and I realized I needed to be the one to address the growing curiosity around us. And Alaric slipped away as another party drew closer. I turned to the audience waiting for my call, and the fears of spectacle loomed like a curtain. Yet the fire between Alaric and me lingered, an ember ready to spark into something more chaotic, beautiful, and profoundly risky. As I adjusted the collar of my blazer, my heart raced, a mixture of fear and thrilling anticipation coursing through my veins. I would confront the board and claim what was rightfully mine. But in the back of my mind, Alaric lingered like a shadow, shining, darkening, a complication of affection. Ready or not, here goes nothing, I thought in resignation as I drew in a breath, focusing on the task ahead, awaiting the complexities we both promised to unearth, one way or another. And just as the meeting commenced, the one promise rang true. Nothing worth having comes easy, and love was no different. Chapter 40. Confronting the Past. The deafening sound of silence echoed in the old dining hall, a place that had always embodied my father's indomitable spirit. I stood alone, the cold, stagnant air wrapping around me like a shroud. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight piercing the stained glass, illuminating memories that clung to the walls, meals shared, arguments simmering, secrets buried. Today, amidst this stillness, I was charged with the monumental task of sorting through what was left of my father's legacy. Each book lent a fragment of him, but the smell of antiquity, the crisp pages and aged leather, jeered at my determination. I couldn't help but think of Alaric, his weighty intentions pressing down on me like a heavy cloak. I had recently discovered the depths to which he had gone to protect me, but the cost of that protection wrapped around my heart like a vice. Had he interfered in my father's affairs as well? The door creaked open behind me, and I turned to find Alaric, standing against the threshold, framed in faded light. The way his presence seemed to fill the room demanded attention without uttering a word. He studied me with an inscrutable expression, hands tucked into the pockets of his tailored trousers, dark eyes awash with concern. "What brings you to the museum of your childhood demons?" he asked, voice low and laced with teasing mischief, almost too light for the gravity of the moment. I arched an eyebrow, trying to maintain an amused facade. Aside from emotional masochism, just trying to salvage something from the wreckage. A flash of vulnerability flickered across his face. "You can't take it all upon yourself, Rebecca. It wasn't your fault." Ah, there it was, the uninvited weight of blame. I shoved a battered book back onto the shelf harder than necessary, each thud a dismissal of his words. Then whose fault was it? Can't we just say that the Ashfords had a knack for destruction? Alaric stepped closer, his voice firm yet understanding. "No, your father built these walls to shelter you, not suffocate you. He wanted a legacy." "Is that why he kept so many secrets?" My tone brooked no argument. The air crackled with fraught energy, tension igniting my frustration. If he had been honest, perhaps things wouldn't feel like such a mess. "Honesty isn't always a neat package, Rebecca," he countered, his posture shifting from playful to protective. "Sometimes it's the very thing that can unravel you." "But isn't that what I deserve?" I demanded, feeling the weight of every heavy syllable. I thought I was brave enough to face my past, but all I feel is lost. "Then let me help you find it," he offered, stepping closer still, invading my space. His breath mingled with mine, a dance of heat and uncertainty. "Or let's turn it into something new." Our eyes met in a charged silence, the air thick with unspoken words and the longing to shatter every boundary. But instead, laughter erupted, a soft sound that didn't quite fit. Shira, my best friend, swept into the room like a burst of sunshine after a storm, clutching a steaming mug of coffee. "Are you two at it again?" she asked, an eager grin plastered across her face. "At what?" I shrugged, my feigned nonchalance falling flat as I struggled to contain my simmering emotions. "Flirting or fighting," she said. "Definitely one of the two." Alaric shot me a look that appeared deceptively unreadable, but I could see a hint of amusement fighting to break through his stoic facade. Shira, ever the peacemaker, stepped in closer with her mug, turning our bubbling tension into a light-hearted bickering match. "Don't mind me," she said, feigning a sip of her coffee as if it were scandalous gossip. "Carry on, but just know I'm rooting for you both. Everyone deserves a little drama in their lives." "Drama?" I huffed, almost laughing at the absurdity of it all. "My whole life is a dramatized version of a cookbook disaster." "Then stop trying to be the chef and let him handle the fire," Shira quipped, a knowing look settling in her eyes. "Your father was a mess, but it doesn't have to be a chain around your neck." Alaric let out a soft chuckle, his presence wrapping around the room like a warm blanket, easing the tension like sunlight breaking through clouds. "See? A voice of reason amid the chaos." I crossed my arms, allowing anger to ebb. "Right, as if I can just ignore the mess my life has become. Do you have any idea what I'm up against?" "Together we can face anything," Alaric murmured, his voice dipping into that silky smooth tone that made my heart race. Before I could answer, his fingers brushed against my arm, each touch igniting seismic waves beneath my skin. I inhaled sharply as Shira pretended to misunderstand our unscripted exchange. "Hold on," she said, narrowing her eyes. "There's a storm brewing in here, but it better not be a sequel to Titanic. If you two sink, I want to be on the lifeboat." "Trust me, this ship is unsinkable," Alaric replied, his eyes glimmering with mischief. "All it needs is a little wind." "Or a good shove," I shot back, still feeling emboldened by Shira's lightheartedness. With a tilt of his head that felt impossibly charming, Alaric took a step back, adjusting the collar of his crisp shirt. "We could have a picnic instead. I hear the gardens are still in bloom. A little air will do you good." "I like your thinking, but don't think I'll let you off the hook," I said, tossing my hair over one shoulder, defiantly. "You'll answer for your little sabotage schemes." "Come now, keeping you on your toes is part of my charm." He winked, the spark between us igniting yet again. "Don't you dare charm me into oblivion, Devereaux," I warned lightly, though the battle within me was fierce. "Too late," he replied, grabbing my hand lightly and pulling me toward the door. "You're as entangled in my schemes as I am in your dilemmas." "We'll see who lures who first," I retorted, glancing back at Shira, who leaned against the wall, arms crossed, and a knowing smile plastered across her face. "Make it a good show, you two," she called, slapping her palm to her forehead in feigned despair. "At least one of you better have a lifeboat ready." As I stepped outside, the sun's warmth enveloped us, and I felt the stirring of both excitement and trepidation. The gardens awaited, yet the unfinished business inside me lingered, a throbbing reminder of the past I had yet to confront. "Rebecca, wait!" Alaric's voice cut through my thoughts, firm and commanding, as he pulled me to a halt. Flickers of apprehension slithered through my veins. "What is it?" "This estate, your legacy," he started, his voice dropping to a somber tone. "It matters more than you think, but so do you. Your choice is moving forward. We're at an intersection now, and I want you choosing life, choosing to discover your potential beyond what's left in these walls." My heart raced as every word ignited the perpetual conflict within. "And you think I'll just follow wherever you lead?" "Not just lead. I want us to be equals, combining our strengths," he said, taking my hands in his with an intensity that shifted the air between us. "But you know I can't pretend I don't need you." Before I could respond, he leaned closer, his breath ghosting my ear, awakening every sense. "Let's move past this. Let's forge a different kind of history." Every ounce of my heart and spirit coalesced around that promise. I felt the fragility of trust, yet the weight of unshakable desire. "Can I trust you?" I whispered, each syllable a test, a challenge, a request. "Trust is a complex tapestry," he murmured, uncertainty flickering behind his dark eyes. "But I assure you, I'm committed to our future." It was a dangerous proposition, and I felt the universe shift its axis. The air between us sizzled. We were at a crossroads, a merging of rival storms. Everything within me told me to accept this entanglement, to leap into the depths of the unknown. "Then let's see how beautifully tangled this tapestry can become," I declared, feeling resolute. His lips crash-landed on mine, erasing the past with the fervor of a wild storm, intertwining our declarations as if resisting gravity. My body responded instinctively to the heat of his touch, the rough edge of his desire, entwining with the softness of my longing. In the sprawling gardens of my father's legacy, the air was filled with the scent of blooming roses, their sweet fragrance mixing with the tantalizing tension, a dangerous yet intoxicating blend that mirrored the reckoning of our choices. And at that moment, a resounding silence fell, one that only we could understand. Together, we would face the demons that lingered in the shadows, daring to breathe life into our union and rekindle hopes that had been yearning for each other all along. The past may have shaped us, but it was our present and the road we chose thereafter that could truly define our future. Only this time, we wouldn't be navigating it alone. Chapter 41. The Dance of Deceit. The faint clinks of crystal glasses mingled with the echoes of laughter, filtering through the grand hall, where gilded chandeliers flickered like stars suspended in a twilight sky. A muted anticipation hung in the air, as if the very walls of Ashford Manor were braced for some unseen drama to unfold. My palms, clammy with both excitement and dread, adjusted the delicate folds of my emerald dress, a deep color that I hoped would keep my heart from being too easily read. "Rebecca, smile." Christine's voice sliced through the crowd, her wavy hair bouncing like playful waves as she approached. Glasses perched precariously on her nose. Dressed in a glittering silver gown that reflected the chandelier's light, she looked like a comet in the atmosphere, fiery, confident, unapproachable. "You're about to make a grand entrance. The art world needs you to dazzle." "Nobody uses dazzle anymore, Christine," I chuckled, a hint of my anxiety bubbling to the surface. "This is a gala about art, not a circus. I can't dazzle any more than a painting can glitter." "Did you see the Blakeleys? Apparently, they didn't get the memo about how tacky it is to show up in the same color scheme as the decor." Christine rolled her eyes dramatically, drawing the attention of one or two nearby guests before they turned back to their murmured conversations. "It's just, people can be so oblivious," I offered. "Right," she beamed. "Now for you, I think you should do that whole I don't care thing. Float around, discuss the merits of controversial modern art. Show them you're a force." "Thanks for the pep talk, coach," I smirked, but inside I felt like I had swallowed a balloon. The evening wasn't merely an event. It was a battlefield for my ambitions and desires. Across the room, I spotted Alaric leaning against a pristine marble pillar, radiating both danger and allure. His eyes met mine, a deep pool of something that sizzled with unspoken tension. He wore a tailored black suit that hugged every contour of his physique, the subtle sheen of his cufflinks twinkling against the soft glow. My heart took a rebellious leap. "There's my distraction." "Distraction?" Christine eyed the pillar, realizing who occupied it. "More like your advance guard. Be careful, Rebecca. He's a bit unpredictable." "Unpredictable can be exciting." It wasn't meant to sound flirty. It came out challenging. "Just don't let him charm your ambitions away," she warned, as she turned to blend in with the crowd. Taking a deep breath, I strolled toward Alaric, the clamor of music and laughter receding into a muted background. He straightened as I approached, and I could feel the familiar current of attraction between us, a voltage that begged to be bridged, yet hovered in the cold air like a sharpened blade. "Rebecca," he said, his voice deep and rich, "you look stunning, like you're glowing with the promise of mischief." "How flattering," I quipped, crossing my arms. "Although I'd say you're perceptive enough to know it's more anxiety than mischief." He chuckled softly, his gaze unfaltering. "Anxiety can lead to thrilling outcomes, just like mischief." That hit a nerve, perhaps a wisp of self-awareness and vulnerability I kept carefully hidden. "Is that how you justify your activities?" Only the ones that require a creative touch. His smile was a slow burn, infuriating and enticing all at once. Just then, a loud voice broke through our charged moment. Ah, Alaric Devereaux, a rarely seen ghost at these gatherings. It was Thomas, a well-fed art collector and notorious gossip, imposing himself into our tense bubble. And Ms. Ashford, returned from academic oblivion, I presume? Not oblivion, just an eager engagement with the world. I forced lightness into my tone, despite the cracks of irritation. Charming, Alaric remarked, shooting a look at Thomas that subdued the man's bravado for just a second. Thomas regained his composure and leaned closer, eyes gleaming with conjecture. Word has it that your father's estate is on the line for worthlessness, Rebecca. Tell me, how are things really going with your grand restoration scheme? I felt my stomach twist. A restoration takes time, Thomas. Unlike your opinions, I have high hopes. Ouch, he feigned a wounded expression, hand over his heart. You know you're rising in the auction ranks when your ambition makes enemies of the windbags. He's no windbag, Alaric interjected smoothly, almost protectively. But meddling in other people's struggles is indeed a fine art. Thomas's lips curled slightly, gauging the currents of tension. We all have art in our hearts, don't we? Rebecca, have you seen the Blakely's collection yet? Maybe a little less focus on other people's collections. Alaric's voice lowered, almost husky. Or would you prefer an actual fight tonight? Alaric, I warned teasingly, not wanting to spark a genuine clash, at least, not just yet. Let's keep it civil. While they continued their banter, I stole glimpses of the crowd swirling around us, each group encapsulated in its own little world of champagne and idle chatter. But then, I caught sight of Vanessa Blakely, her laugh bubbling over as she clutched a sparkling glass, whispering conspiratorials to her husband. The tension from Alaric's earlier warning struck a dull chord in my chest. Are you okay? Alaric's voice shifted, his brow slightly furrowed, pulling me back from my thoughts. It's just, I paused, eyeing Vanessa. People can be deceptive, can't they? They'd play these games, pretending to be friends, but underneath it's just a web of lies. You think they're all like that? I wish I didn't, but this evening is a showcase of deceit wrapped in glamour. I braved a smile, though the unease lingered. I mean, how many of these conversations are genuine? Does anyone here have a real motive besides social climbing? Alaric looked at me thoughtfully, as if weighing my words carefully. In that case, they might envy your authenticity and passion, which is dangerous. Sensing the depth of his words, I felt the atmosphere tighten. The stakes were high, and I could either shrink back or plunge forward. Danger can be thrilling, I acknowledged, heart pounding. Are you volunteering as my protector? Would you need one? He asked, a slight teasing grin returning to his face. After a few more comments from Thomas, I might. Just as I finished my thought, a voice cut through again, this time sharper and more demanding. Rebecca, there you are. We need to talk about the fundraiser next week. It was Diana, my mother's old friend and an associate at a rival gallery. I winced. Great. The night just got more chaotic. Diana closed the distance quickly, her perfectly manicured nails laced with diamonds gleaming in the warm light. Why on earth would you wear that shocking color? You might as well just wave your ambitions under everyone's nose. Thanks for the feedback, Diana, I said, my tone frigid. I'll be sure to ask for your fashion advice next time. I was only suggesting. No, I interjected, finally feeling the rising heat in my own voice. You were criticizing. And this is why the young must take heed from the wise, she retorted, crossing her arms, tipping her head. Careful, dear, Alaric murmured beside me, amusement dancing in his eyes. You might end up needing a bigger umbrella for that storm. Oh, please, Diana rolled her eyes, as if he would understand the intricacies of gallery politics. Ah, there's a distaste for gallery gossip, isn't there? Alaric quirked an eyebrow, studying intensely on Diana. You should know the more intriguing stories lie behind the canvas rather than in the heart of their frames. You've read too much into my opinions, Mr. Devereaux, Diana shot back, though I could read the tension in her posture. We merely discuss survival of the fittest among curators. Another laugh burst from Alaric's lips. Sounds more like vivisection. And here I thought art was supposed to unite rather than divide. Diana turned a chiming laugh into a huff. I don't need a lesson from you about art as unity, darling. If only the world worked that way. Perhaps it wouldn't hurt to remember it from time to time, he countered, his gaze drifting back to me, the playfulness soured. An icy silence enveloped the room, just long enough to make my heart race even faster, charged with an energy that begged for something, anything, to break its hold. All right, is that all? Because if we're done discussing fashion disasters and lecture-worthy insights on art's purpose, I may just find my own corner to savor in peace. I pivoted to Alaric, whose dark eyes sparked from mischief to admiration, and perhaps something deeper. A flicker of confusion crossed his brow. Still with the storm theme, Rebecca? Why not? There's danger in beauty, after all. My gaze met his, settling into a pregnant pause that felt as if it might unravel years of tension. Then, like a thunderous clap, the gala's music swelled. My hands instinctively clenched, and at that moment I made the choice to plunge into the eye of the storm with Alaric Devereaux by my side. Let's dance, I suggested, the words unplanned yet heavy with the promise of reprieve. He held out his arm, a dangerous glint shadowing his watchful gaze. After you. The music pulsated in our veins as we stepped onto the dance floor, the world swirling around us, bold, bright, and tinged with the threat of what lay beneath. And with every rhythmic sway, I felt the chaotic tempest of danger and desire culminating into a force that could consume us both. As we moved together, I could feel the weight of expectations dissipate, the insistent cacophony of society fading into an enthralling backdrop. But with every turn, every dip, paranoia crept closer, whispering reminders of the truths we dared not share. Rebecca, Alaric murmured, his breath grazing my ear, hot and intoxicating. You cannot hide your light forever. You'll burn far brighter in the truth. Perhaps the truth can be its own type of passion, I replied, my heart galloping, and perhaps that passion can set us both free. Tension crackled between the two of us, while whispers of the crowd swirled like tendrils of smoke. Would I dare risk it all for a burning ember of possibility? Would I allow the flames to consume not just me, but the tangled threads of everything I fought to protect? All I knew was that I needed to take control before the dance of deceit led us into madness. Then let's blaze together, Alaric responded, his tone igniting the humid air. As we lost ourselves in the thrumming pulse of the music, all my frustrations, my ambitions, and my desires began to burn, a conflagration waiting to unfold. And for the first time that evening, I welcomed the heat. Chapter 42. Tension at the estate. The air had turned thick, a cloying blend of paint and dust. I stood beneath the grand archways of my father's estate, the sunlight filtering through the fading glass, casting a kaleidoscope of muted colors across the floor. The previously serene space felt charged, lit with an energy that crackled like dry leaves underfoot. I could feel the tension coiling tighter, like the wires of a stormy sky. Alaric paced in front of me, his dark coat fluttering like a cloak behind him. I could see the muscles of his jaw working, the way his eyes darted, calculating every moment. He leaned against the still warm stone of the fireplace, the fire long extinguished, but its residue of heat lingering, just like our own unresolved feelings. Rebecca, you can't possibly think restoring this place will solve everything, he said, his tone clipped, eyes narrowing as he shoved his hands deep into his pockets. It's not just the structure that needs saving, it's the legacy, and you're risking it all on an outdated vision. Outdated? I shot back, heart racing as I took a step closer, letting the air of challenge hang between us. You're the one who doesn't understand the value of history, Alaric. This estate isn't a mere business proposition for me. It's my blood, my past, I refused to sell my father's dream for a fast profit. I was fueled by an anger that tasted like iron on my tongue, stoked by his relentless intrusion into my plans. He pushed off the fireplace, moving closer, invading my space with an intensity that sent shivers ricocheting down my spine. "And what of your ambition, Rebecca? You know this will take a fortune. You can't neglect the reality of our world for some vision of a gallery cafe. Unlike you, I can separate my desires from my greed," I hissed, the words spilling out like a raw confession laden with years of feeling misunderstood. "I want to create something lasting, something beautiful." His eyes narrowed, piercing through the haze of righteous indignation. "Beautiful doesn't pay rent." The truth of his statement rang in the silence that followed, yet his arrogance ignited more passion in me than bitterness. "You think you have me all figured out, don't you?" I shot back, wanting to rip the control from his hands. "Busy rescuing the dilapidated dreams of the past, while you circle overhead like a vulture, waiting for me to collapse. That's rich coming from you." His expression softened, a flicker of amusement crossing his lips. "You act like your family's failures don't hang over your head like the sword of Damocles. How do you expect to rebuild when you're disregarding every obstacle?" I wanted to slap him, to punctuate my frustration with defiance. Instead, I crossed my arms, my heart a wildfire beneath my chest. "I don't need you to remind me of my past, Alaric. Each moment I spend revisiting the shadows only strengthens my resolve. What would you know about building something? You're too busy tearing everything down to know how to grow." His laughter was low and rumbling, striking through the tension like a hammer on anvil. "Touché, Miss Ashford. Yet here I am, offering support, albeit through some unconventional means." He let the last words linger, his voice dipped in an intoxicating mix of mischief and challenge, and I felt the heat rising up my neck. "Support?" I laughed, though the sound was more brittle than amused. "Is that what you call it? Sabotaging my competitors and fueling the fear that this place will burn down around me?" His gaze softened again, revealing a glimpse of something more profound beneath his mockery. Passion, perhaps, or just a twisted sense of loyalty. "You don't understand, Rebecca. I'm working to preserve the art of the battle, the rhythm of survival. Sometimes that means playing dirty. Or just being a coward," I spat, unraveled by the way his intensity both comforted and terrified me. His body shifted towards me, closing the distance, and for a heartbeat, I could feel the warm tang of his breath against my cheek. "A coward? Or a commander?" he murmured, his tone dipping dangerously low, stirring a fire within me. Before I could respond, my friend Zoe stumbled into the room, her laughter bright and uncomprehending to the charged atmosphere. "Are you two seriously arguing about a gallery cafe while a storm brews outside? Shouldn't you be fighting over, I don't know, something more interesting, like, I don't know, a French chef?" Alaric and I broke apart as if caught in an illicit affair, turning towards Zoe with mixed annoyance and gratitude. "Not helping, Zoe," I said, trying to shake off the intensity of the moment. "Please." Zoe rolled her eyes, landing heavily in a chair with an exaggerated sigh. "If you're both going to squabble like chickens, at least make it work out well for the audience." She leaned forward, her expression conspiratorial. "But tell me this, what about the affair? How's that working out?" Alaric raised an eyebrow, his smirk returning. "What do you mean by affair exactly? It sounds like you're suggesting something completely scandalous." "Oh, for heaven's sake," I gasped, throwing my hands up in exasperation. "We are not having an affair." My cheeks flushed hot, igniting further teasing from Zoe. Yet the chemistry is undeniably there. Zoe leaned back, eyes twinkling with mischief. Alaric chuckled, the sound deeply soothing, and I couldn't help but wonder if he found joy in my discomfort. "Rebecca, would you like to control the narrative? Or should it be the affair everyone's talking about?" "Thanks for that, Alaric," I shot back, heat rising again to color my skin. "Let's arise rumors about a secret rendezvous, shall we? Just because I happen to find you infuriating doesn't mean I want the whole town to know." "Come on, Rebecca," Zoe said, winking. "But let's be honest. You two together could light up the whole of Charleston and make it sizzle. The way her eyes darted between us, the challenge lacing her words, made my heart race in a combination of embarrassment and undeniable longing. Do you think you could keep it professional? Alaric leaned closer to me, lowering his voice as if we had stepped away from the comedy and Zoe's meddling. Or do I need to start tearing down your competitors more aggressively? That word, tear, registered as if he whispered a promise, and my skin prickled with tension, the pulse of my emotions restless beneath the surface. Those aren't your crusades, Alaric. You don't get to just play puppet master in my life. Oh, but I do, he challenged, stepping back as if taking his place on a battlefield. And it appears I always have. As if struck by sudden inspiration, Zoe clapped her hands. Why don't we toss aside the walls for once, go out for a drink, and work our feelings through the wonders of a good cocktail? I hear the bar down the road has a pomegranate margarita that could make you forget anything troublesome. Easier said than done, I muttered, barely aware of the world outside my heated confrontation with Alaric. If you two don't start having fun soon, I may have to have a word with the porcelain cat at that mantel. Zoe teased, her smile infectious. I refuse to see two smart people fight when one drink could solve everything. Zoe, I groaned, even as a reluctant smile tugged at my lips. Alaric's gaze flickered between us, his quiet amusement palpable. What a passionate defense of our tumultuous relationship, Zoe. Maybe if I offer one of those margaritas, you'll unlock the treasure of Rebecca's heart. Instantly, my heart jumped. There it was again, the unyielding chemistry, sizzling beneath our exchanges like captured lightning. The moment stretched, and I caught the weight of our breaths bridging opposite sides of an abyss. Fine, I said swiftly, cutting through the silence. I'd gone from heated arguments to sudden urges, barely able to regulate my emotions. Let's drink. See? Zoe's natural exuberance stole the moment from all of us. Just wait until you both taste happiness. As we flowed into the local bar, colorfully decorated with hanging glass lanterns and rich wood, I could feel Alaric's presence beside me, a gravitational pull that both delighted and terrified. Zoe chatted animatedly about her latest art schmooze, dashing back to order drinks, while I battled with the moment's stranglehold. I focused on the textured wood of the bar, the sharpness of my drink mingling fiercely with the tension simmering beneath the surface between Alaric and me, sparking dangerously close to kindling. Finally, when Zoe returned, laying 2 margaritas before us, the tingling heat of our earlier exchange lingered in the air like unwritten rules. Drink up, you two, Zoe chirped, oblivious to the quiet storm brewing. This will change your tune. Alaric chuckled softly, then lifted his glass, his eyes locking with mine. To unpredictability, he toasted, the weight of meaning beneath his words swirled with electricity. To unpredictability, I echoed back, my heart racing. As we clinked glasses, a new challenge formed in the air between us, hinting that an electrifying future might just lie ahead, filled with rivalry, unpredictable desires, and the possibility of a kiss that would send both our worlds spiraling. As we drank, laughter erupted, but I felt the looming weight of our unfinished confrontation still hung above us, the fire just waiting for a spark to ignite. And oh, it would. I was certain of it. Chapter 43. Cracks amidst the charm. I stood in the grand foyer of Ashford Estate, the scent of aged leather and polished wood enveloping me like an embrace. Sunlight streamed through the leaded glass windows, casting colorful streaks onto the mosaic tiles beneath my feet. My fingers brushed across the curve of an old balustrade as I mentally choreographed the final steps for tonight's art exhibition. With each task, I felt the weight of my past collide fiercely with my present, a collision I was both eager and terrified to face. Becca, are you coming or going? Samantha's voice sliced through my thoughts like a fine blade. She was leaning against the doorframe, her arms crossed, a playful smirk dancing on her lips. Somehow she always knew when I was spiraling. What do you mean? I replied, adjusting the silk scarf around my neck, as if it could shield me from the foreboding sensations gnawing in my stomach. I'm trying to prepare for the exhibition, Sam. Ah, yes, but in case you missed the memo, the exhibition is tonight. You know, as in not tomorrow or next week? She gestured dramatically toward the door. The guests won't just waltz in for a half-completed affair. I let out a soft laugh, but it wasn't enough to rid my heart of its anxious drumbeat. You're right. But it's not just about the event. I turned toward the staircase in a futile attempt to appear busy, my fingers tracing the banister as I climbed its old, familiar steps. It's about what's at stake. If I don't make tonight perfect. Hey. She climbed the steps behind me, silver heels clicking with each determined step. You're not going to lose the estate. Not while you've got that charmer, Alaric, in your corner. Charmer? I echoed, softening my stance, allowing myself to feel the warmth of reassurance within her words. Alaric was, in so many ways, that and more. A wild current alongside my carefully mapped life, dangerously thrilling. Let's just say he's had a knack for making things interesting, since he swooped in. Her teasing tone turned serious, a rare spark of concern flickering in her dark eyes. But Becca, you know chaos often breeds trouble. I can handle trouble, I replied, inching closer to the door of the study where Alaric often retreated, a sanctuary of his own creation. But I refused to lose sight of my goals. As I pulled open the door, the cool air of the study enveloped me, mingling with the aroma of fresh coffee, rich, deep, and slightly bitter. Alaric was hunched over a table piled high with papers, oblivious to my intrusion. His brow furrowed in concentration, fingers running across the documents, every muscle in his body radiating intensity. Alaric, I cleared my throat, interrupting the electric tension that pulsed through the air. He looked up, and for a moment time paused. Those piercing green eyes swept over me with an insatiable hunger that made my skin prickle. Rebecca. He leaned back ever so slightly, a ghost of a smile uncoiling on his lips. How are the preparations? There's work to be done, but I'm biting my lip deliberately, watching him closely. Overwhelmed. His smile widened, revealing that intoxicating charm. You'll dazzle them all tonight, you always do. Just make sure none of your, shall we say, associates show up uninvited. I couldn't help the sharpness creeping into my tone. I remembered the shadowy figures that danced in the periphery of his world, a world filled with danger and secrecy. It's an art gallery, not a battleground. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the mahogany table, forcing me to meet his gaze. The weight of his attentiveness sent shivers down my spine. You think I would put you in harm's way? I straightened, the pulse of unspoken words crackling between us. You're interconnected in ways I barely understand. It's not me I'm concerned about, Alaric. It's everything else. An elusive flicker passed over his face, a fleeting vulnerability, perhaps. You're underestimating the lengths I'll go to protect you, Rebecca. Not just the estate, you. Protection or possessiveness? I fired back as I struggled to keep my voice light, masking the lump in my throat. Both, he stated with conviction, his gaze undeterred, and you need to decide how much you're willing to trust me. My breath caught, and in that moment, the thick tension was interrupted by the clattering of heels against the hardwood floor. Greta, my lead assistant, burst through the study door as if staving off a minor crisis, her expression a perplexing mix of excitement and worry. Rebecca, the caterer just called. He's stuck in traffic, and we're missing wine glasses. She inhaled deeply, her chest rising and falling rapidly. Things are spiraling. Count to 10 and take a deep breath, I interjected, raising a hand to calm her. We can manage this. Who do you think I am? The wine glass fairy? She shot back, all exasperation. Or are you just going to let your beau work his magic while my impeccable standards fall to pieces? Greta, Alaric interjected, his voice low but firm as he stood up, towering like a guardian in the cramped study. Let me handle this. I'll make a call to salvage the situation. Greta blinked at him, mischief lighting up her eyes. Wow, I didn't think you had such talents under that smooth exterior, Alaric. You might want to take notes, I teased, feeling a rush of warmth, albeit with a hint of irritation. He does it often, tweaks my plans while pretending to help. We'll go see the venue, Greta insisted, straightening up. My taste will redeem the rest of the evening. Good idea, I said, but the brief respite of humor could not mask the undercurrents swirling in me. Just handle it. I can't be pulled from the exhibition until we're ready. As they exited, the door closing softly behind them, I felt trapped by the swirling chaos of expectation. Alaric's presence lingered like an unsolvable riddle, each moment intensifying the hunger that brewed beneath the surface. He was a tempest, and I was always one breath away from being swept away. Stepping back closer to the table, I caught sight of various vibrant sketches strewn across the surface, each portraying a piece of art that had entwined its roots within my soul. The connections I was establishing through these exhibits, the legacy of my father crafted into existence, felt precarious, yet alive and thriving. It wasn't long before Alaric walked back in, his expression transforming with the quiet ease of the storm settling into stillness. The wine glasses will be here shortly. I folded my arms, the tension thickening again. I didn't ask for your help, Alaric. Sure you didn't, he mused, leaning casually against the door, looking far too composed for the room's mounting chaos. But you'll thank me later. I stepped toward him, the air crackling again with potential. Thank you? For meddling in my affairs? He crossed the distance between us in one fluid motion, a piercing gaze that cut through our playful banter. I meddle for your own good, because somewhere beneath that fierce exterior, I can see you're worried about the estate, about us. The words hung heavily, unasked questions lingering silently between us. I quit pretending to distract myself with the sketches, my heart pounding as alarm bells reverberated in my mind. We are not at a crossroads, Alaric. We're on a different path entirely. His hand brushed against my arm, and the mere contact ignited flames. What if I want to walk beside you on that path? The warmth in his gaze was intoxicating, and fear gripped me momentarily. Did I ever want to relinquish that ambition? Before I could manage a coherent reply, he leaned in closer, his lips brushing lightly against my ear. It doesn't always have to be heavy, Rebecca. Not everything is solemn. Sometimes you just need to feel. An abrupt knock shattered the moment, wrenched me back to reality, and with it came my frustration. Does anything actually go smoothly in this house? I exclaimed, backing away slightly. Greta re-entered, her eyes wide, and a mischievous smile playing at her lips. You two are delightful together, but honestly, we have guests arriving any time now. I just hope they don't expect a miracle, I muttered, attempting to mask the unsettling energy lingering in Alaric's presence. Pish-posh, Greta exclaimed. You're the miracle maker here. Come on, Becca, show a little sass. Fine, I declared, scrunching my hair up into a messy bun. Sass it is. Alaric chuckled, the sound deep and hollow in the space. Even showing some sass, there's a tempest brewing beneath all that charm. Now is not the time for prophecies, I shot back, suddenly feeling conspicuous under his penetrating gaze. We have an exhibition to run. Focus. Fine, he said, his voice taking on a mock-serious tone. I'll be the strong and capable knight in your corner, but just know that it's quite vivid how you'd shatter the battlefield. Before I could retort, he stepped back, the brief intimacy evaporating. I shrugged off the warmth lingering on my skin, laughter bubbling just below the surface. As we all descended the stairs into the bright chaos of the assembled guests, the anticipation in the air thickened. It felt closer than I'd ever been to uncovering not just the hidden treasures of the estate, but also the hidden corners of my own heart, a revelation I had yet to touch. Rebecca, you need to straighten that collar. Honestly, is this an art exhibition or a fashion show? I quipped, pulling a strand of hair down from my bun. Depends on how you want to be seen, Alaric interjected, smirking. Now I'm tempted to tear clothes off. I laughed, shaking my head. Later, he winked, a spark of mischief igniting something deep within me. The laughter pushed me forward, allowing me to bask in the energy of the assembled crowd. I was ready, or at least I thought I was. Behind the bright facade of cheer, cracks formed. Even among the charm, darkness lingered, waiting to creep into the light. And with every passing moment, I pondered what choices lay ahead in a world entangled in vibrant art and simmering secrets. Chapter 44, Shared Secrets. The rain splattered against the window in desperate bursts, each patter a sharp reminder of the storm brewing outside, echoing the tumult within me. I stood in the flickering glow of candlelight, my fingers gently rolling a paintbrush between my fingers, trying to find solace in the simple act of mixing colors. The palette, an array of deep indigo, muted gold, and shades of crimson, was meant for an entirely different purpose. A desperate attempt to resurrect my father's legacy lay ahead, and yet my mind lingered elsewhere. "Rebecca, are you creating art, or just a mess?" Alaric's voice, smooth and teasing, cut through the stillness. He leaned against the frame of the doorway, his silhouette framed by the dim, chaotic light of the storm outside. I could see the tension in his shoulders, a tightness that spoke volumes on its own. I rolled my eyes, feigning nonchalance even as I felt the familiar heat rise in my cheeks. "If this is a mess, it's your fault for interrupting my artistic flow." I turned back to my palette, desperate to mask my flustered expression, yet I could sense his presence shifting, the air around us tightening like the drawn strings of a bow. "What's distracting you? If it's not paint on your fingers, it must be something far more intriguing." His eyes glinted with mischief, mixing an aloof confidence with earnest curiosity. I felt the weight of his gaze, an intricate puzzle I both wanted to solve and avoid. "What makes you think I'm distracted?" I won't give him the satisfaction. As if to prove my point, I dipped the brush back into the indigo, dashing it across the canvas, leaving broad, erratic strokes behind, my heart's in every swirl. He stepped into the room, traversing the storm-drenched floor until he stood close enough that I felt the warmth radiate from him despite the cooling tempest outside. "Because, my dear Rebecca, you're far too talented to be merely playing. You have passion, drive, like a flickering flame in the wind. I see it. I feel it." The finality of his words drummed in my chest. The storm threatened to drown out our frivolous jibes, but I matched his intensity with a deep breath. "And what would you know about flames, Alaric? Or about what drives me?" "Oh, don't be coy. We both know." "Do we?" I challenged, stepping back and forcing a bounce into my bravado. "You're a man of secrets, Alaric. I wouldn't be surprised if you know more about my drives than I do." "Tell me about your passion for art then," he countered smoothly. "What makes your heart race?" His expression was one of deep curiosity, matched with a lingering tension that sizzled between us, a dance that we had both perfected, yet never truly engaged in. For a moment, I hesitated. How much could I reveal? Before I could finish, the lights flickered ominously, a brief flash coinciding with a loud crack of thunder that rattled the old windows. For a split second, fear mingled with excitement as I jumped, and he laughed, the sound rumbling like the storm outside, a stark contrast to the chaotic world beyond. "Fear of storms? You can admit it, you know." "Everybody's afraid of something," I shot back, trying to regain composure. "Didn't you say you were impervious to fear?" "Ah, but then you've never seen me with a real thunderstorm." He waggled a finger playfully. "I'm positively fearless about most things, except sharing my secrets." "Would you like me to get my diary?" I asked, rolling my eyes. I could just write "Alaric does not share his secrets" on repeat. "Perhaps one day," he remarked, his tone shifting slightly, revealing a depth behind the playful banter. "But this evening I think it's you who needs to share." I sighed, a tumult of emotions battling within me. "Fine. What do you want to know?" He stepped nearer, lowering his voice as if the candlelight could somehow shield our conversation from the storm. "Your ambition, your dream. You want to turn the estate into something beautiful, something that resonates with those who lost it." There it was, the edge of seriousness cutting through our playful exchanges. It draped heavy in the air. "Why do you care?" I shot back, defensive and on guard. "You only see the business side." He shook his head. "Rebecca, you're more than just business to me." His voice softened, and I found my breath catching. "What holds you back?" A pause lingered, the candle flickered, bobbing with uncertainty, mirroring my own unsettled feelings. I could hear the storm outside intensifying, a hurricane of desire and hesitation swirling around us. "I'm afraid of losing everything. My father's legacy, my identity. I buried myself in this project." I gestured to the thick volumes of research materials scattered around, "to honor him. But the closer I get, the more I realize just how much I stand to lose." Alaric studied me, the tension crackling like static in the air. "And nothing else? What's that supposed to mean?" "Oh, come now, even the strongest flames flicker under certain pressures. Surely you felt something for me, even if you won't admit it." I smiled despite myself, the truth creeping up like a shaking tremor. "Oh, I feel things, enormous things. But we both know this is a storm worth navigating," I said, my tone suddenly playful. "Your profound thoughts about my ambitions don't frighten me half as much as your flirtations." "Flirtations? I'm just holding space for your brilliance, sweetheart." "Space?" I leaned in, lowering my voice as I challenged him. "Is that what you call it? And here I thought you were just trying to entangle me in your webs of secrecy." Entangle or liberate? His proximity closed in, and my heart raced in tandem with the storm. We stood shoulder to shoulder, the air between us electrified. The raindrops hammered relentlessly, drowning out the world but enhancing the intimacy of the moment. My heart, betraying my attempts at self-control, thudded at the pulsing rhythm of the rain. "You know it's more than just business between us," he said, his gaze steady and earnest. It felt like the truth sat on the edge of a precipice that could break apart if we pushed a little harder. "Then why don't you show me?" I breathed without thinking. The words hung in the stillness, charged and alive. "What do you want me to show you, Rebecca?" His voice dropped a tantalizing octave. I swallowed hard, and suddenly the candlelight felt unbearably warm. "Show me what it means to trust, Alaric, to trust someone when their motivations are shrouded in shadows." He stepped closer, closing the distance until our breaths mingled. "And what if I held those shadows for you, ready to cast them aside?" I think I might believe you." And just like that, the last remnants of my defenses melted under the steam of an unspoken understanding. I reached out, my fingers grazing against his, and the world outside the crumbling estate faded beneath heavy rain and thunder, all history and ambition falling away, dwindling to nothingness. "Then let's explore our shadows together," he murmured, his lips a breath away, urgency crackling in the space between us. With a boldness I didn't know I possessed, I moved forward, to close the distance completely. Our lips finally met, the kiss igniting like the strike of lightning outside, raw, electric, and wholly consuming. My heart raced as I lost myself completely in him, his taste a wild mix of danger and desire. The storm's fury raged, but within the folds of passion, there was a laugh. A rich, light-hearted sound wrapped around deep secrets and shared vulnerabilities. The fighting winds outside felt minuscule compared to the tempest of emotions we were unleashing within ourselves. Alaric's hands found my waist, strong and firm, pulling me closer. I sang with the softness of his touch, and I could feel our barriers dissipating, our powers entwining, intermingling like the colors on my palette, dazzling and chaotic. "Are you sure you want this?" he murmured against my lips, that familiar spark flashing through his eyes, compelling me further into the depths of vulnerability. "Yes, and that I want you, even if it makes me reckless." And as the storm raged on, our world shifted. Each brush of our skin, every whispered laugh, breathed deep another layer of shared secrets, unlocking fresh chambers of fears and sensibilities, mingled with desires. "Let's make some art together," he grinned mischievously, pulling me against him. the candlelight dancing in response to our impending intimacy. Yes, I gasped, a wave of urgency surging through me as the rain thudded a steady rhythm against the glass, reminding me of the resolve I had buried under layers of ambition. Make it beautiful. In that room, during a tempest that felt like it could swallow everything, I finally discovered the thrill of surrendering to possibility, my heart devouring the warmth of our shared chaos. The shadows blurred, and it became clear. Sometimes love isn't about solving puzzles, but embracing the chaos of shared secrets that bind us together. Let's conquer the storm, he whispered as his lips brushed against my neck. And I found the courage to open my heart wide, ready for whatever awaited us. Chapter 45. An Invitation to Dine. I stood at the window, watching the rain drench the streets of Charleston. Raindrops raced down the glass like fleeting thoughts, evaporating before they could coalesce into something tangible. It was a city alive with secrets, and I had my own tangled knots to untie. Alaric would arrive soon for dinner, an invitation that felt more like an ultimatum. There would be no escaping the undercurrents between us any longer. As I turned from the window, the flickering candlelight threw dancing shadows across the plush crimson walls of my father's estate. It should have felt surreal, hosting a dinner for a man whose presence soared like a summer storm, beautiful yet perilous. I set the table with exquisite care, layering the fine china with an almost religious reverence. If I was to lay bare my vulnerabilities, this setting needed to reflect the duality of our lives. The truth was, I had chosen this evening not just to confront him, but to confront myself. I poured a glass of deep red wine and inhaled the rich aroma. The scent promised warmth, intoxication, and perhaps even the courage to delve into the depths of my burgeoning desire for him. A knock at the door sent a pulse of adrenaline through my veins. I took a moment to steady my breath before welcoming him inside, not wanting my excitement to outpace my composure. "Rebecca," Alaric greeted, his voice smooth and thrilling, like the velvet ribbons the rain left on the pavement. He stood there, a silhouette of contradictions, his tailored suit fitting perfectly, yet he carried an air of unrestrained risk. "Alaric," I replied, attempting a steady voice, though the fluttering in my stomach betrayed me. "I'm glad you could make it." I gestured for him to enter. As he stepped inside, I caught the faintest whiff of crisp autumn air mingling with the scent of his cologne, a unique blend that struck me as earthly yet intoxicating, like the promise of something thrilling hidden beneath layers. Alaric approached the dining table, eyeing the setting with a playful smirk. "Dinner for two?" he teased, his dark eyes glimmering with mischief. Should I feel honored or nervous? "Both, perhaps," I said, trying to match his energy without spilling my secrets. "Consider it an opportunity, one that doesn't come around often in this world." He arched an eyebrow, aware of the layers buried within my words. "What kind of opportunity?" I poured him a glass of wine, lingering on the delicate stem. The chance to clear the air, to peel back the layers, as it were. His gaze dropped to my lips, intense enough to ignite a spark that buzzed between us like live wires. "Layer by layer, then. I've been eager to hear what's on that mind of yours." "Good," I replied, trying to keep it light, though my heart beat a little faster. The table was set for conversation, yet I felt the stakes climbing higher with every passing second. We both had things to hide, our mutual vulnerabilities masked by a shared passion that both excited and terrified me. Dinner unfolded, punctuated by laughter and bursts of shared stories, interlaced with unspoken tension. Each course revealed slices of our lives, bits of a narrative we were both uncertain how to piece together. "You know," he said as he leaned forward, elbows resting on the table, "I didn't think you'd be brave enough to invite me here." "Bravery has its moments," I quipped, my smile teasing the edges of a challenge. "You can't question my ambition." "Oh, ambition is not what concerns me." His voice dropped, thickening with the tension that invaded the air between us. It's the fire that hides in your eyes. That's what I want to understand. Do you? Or do you want to extinguish it? I challenged, driven suddenly from my seat by the heat that surged through me. I paced around the table, wanting him to follow. Perhaps I wished to stoke it. His voice was tangible, as if reaching for me from across the room. By taking it for yourself, I countered, challenge radiating in every word, even as my heart raced with desire. He stood, closing the distance, and I felt entrapped within the intensity of his gaze. You don't know half of what I would do to keep that fire ablaze. His words broke an invisible dam between us, filling the room with an electric energy. Suddenly, the soft music playing faintly in the background felt almost sacrilegious to the primal pulse that resonated between our bodies. Is that a challenge, Alaric? Maybe, he replied, stepping back slightly, his lips curving in admiration. Challenge is adventure, and you seem like the kind of woman who craves a thrilling escapade. With all the wrong kinds of adventures, perhaps, I said, coyly nagging at the edges of our conversation. Or all the right ones, he said playfully, leaning closer again. But before I could answer, the phone on the counter buzzed with urgency, shattering our moment. I glanced at Alaric, feeling the tension slip away, and grabbed the device, my heart sinking. Sorry, I muttered, moving to the side. I need to take this. Take your time, Alaric said, his tone light but serious, watching my every move. The call was from Sophia, my best friend and the closest thing to family I had. She was a whirlwind, always bustling with energy. Rebecca, you won't believe what just happened downtown. You have to come, she chirped, animatedly. I can't right now, Sophia. I'm dining with the mystery man. Ooh, tell me everything later. But seriously, there's a fashion event happening that is buzzing with scandal. Scandal? I echoed, glancing at Alaric. The word wrapped around my tongue tightly, tightening a tension I could almost taste. Oh yes, word has it that several high-profile attendees have been implicated in some serious dealings. There are rumors of undisclosed relationships flying around. You really should catch this while it's fresh. Alaric, catching snippets of my conversation, leaned against the kitchen island, arms crossed, a glint of interest in his eye. Sure, Sophia, I'll check it out, I said, trying to keep my response brief. I hung up, turning my attention back to Alaric. Sorry about that, just the chaos of my life. Chaos can be thrilling, he replied, a hint of amusement in his voice. But does it overshadow what really matters? What do you mean? The question hung between us, both serious and charged. What matters is what happens behind closed doors, don't you think? Is that why you stoked a fire in my life? To take me deeper into those shadows? I'm attracted to a blaze, Rebecca. You may not see it, but you're a damn inferno in more ways than one. His boldness ignited a spark I had tried to ignore but could no longer shy away from. Suddenly, I was all too aware of the space between us, a chasm filled with uncalled desires and questions whose answers would shape our destinies. Then perhaps we should stop dancing around this, I murmured, stepping forward until I could feel the warmth radiating from his body. Dancing is sometimes the best part, he replied, wry smile echoing in his eyes. Or it's the prelude to the main event, I resolved, hovering closer. Without warning, I tilted my head upward, and he captured my mouth under his, a searing kiss that burned away pretense. As desire surged, we melted against each other, heat spiraling into urgency. Alaric, it's just— No more justs, he interrupted, pulling me in tighter. No questions, just feel this. I surrendered to the moment, our bodies molding against each other as though we were two flames, drawn together by sheer force. The world outside, the dinner, the chaos, even the scandal, vanished. Our kiss deepened, becoming a dance of its own, punctuated by whispered breaths and the sound of our hearts thumping out a rhythm that was both reckless and harmonious. It wasn't just physical. It was an exploration of vulnerabilities, fears, and desires. With every caress, I began to understand the weight of choosing to love in a world riddled with dangers. Alaric's hand traveled down my back, each brush against my skin, igniting sparks that crackled like fire. I need to understand you, he breathed against my lips, drawing back just enough to search my eyes. And you, I replied, feeling the intensity of his gaze laser focus on me. Then let's reclaim the evening. He pulled me closer, our mouths meeting and trembling against each other. Every touch felt electric, a shared vow in the heart of the storm we had walked into willingly. Sinking deeper into the kiss, I realized the confrontation I had planned could wait. In that moment, lost in Alaric's embrace, I surrendered not just to him, but to the wildness of my own heart. Chapter 46, A Moment of Doubt. The air hung thick with the scent of damp earth and overripe apples as I stood in the expansive garden of Ashford Estate. Droplets lingered on leaves, glimmering like unformed tears. The sun had just slipped behind the clouds, casting an uneven shadow that swallowed the once vibrant blooms. My fingers traced the contours of a chilling thought. Could the weight of Alaric's secrets crush this place under their pressure? Earth to Rebecca, my best friend Lila chimed. She shuffled closer, her oversized raincoat billowing like a bright sail against the encroaching bloom. Are you planning to let the droopy flowers beat you today? Her voice danced lightly, a balm against the swirl of my unease. Maybe I'm waiting for Alaric to show up and give me a sweeping romantic apology, I shot back, trying for humor, but failing to mask the tired quiver in my voice. The truth was a heavy shroud, suffocating my light-hearted banter. Lila twisted her mouth in mock contemplation, staring out over the garden. Do you really think a man like him knows how to say, "I'm sorry," in anything but a fatalistic way? He might light a bonfire, look deeply into your eyes, and then say, "Kiss me if I'm wrong, but I think it's time for a bold move." A laugh escaped me, but it crumbled into a sigh. Lila, it's not that simple. There are things, secrets I don't understand. My gaze fell on the crooked trellis, barely holding up its climbing roses. How fitting. He's not the boogeyman, you know. He's just a damaged man trying to figure things out, just like the rest of us, she observed, nudging my shoulder. But if you're not careful, you'll wind up as twisted as those roses. I narrowed my eyes and turned to the gate, half expecting Alaric to stroll through, impossibly calm and charming even in the gathering clouds. But what seemed charming on the surface now felt convoluted, a mirage of the man I thought I knew. Do you think he's hiding something from me? I whispered, the question almost a confession. The silence in the garden swelled around me, pressing against my chest. I needed Lila's presence to ground me. The question is, can you handle the truth? She asked, concern etched in her features. Sometimes the scariest things we hide turn out to be the very things that save us. I wanted to believe her, but panic gnawed at the edges of my heart. Alaric had been a tempest, a brilliant, reckless force of nature in my life, yet every solar flare had left behind a blackened sky. What if that darkness seeped further into my life? As if summoned by my thoughts, Alaric's figure emerged through the mist-laden air, an embodiment of grounded anxiety, the handsome chaos I grappled with. His dark eyes burned with their usual intensity, but something flickered beneath. "Rebecca," he called, hands shoved casually into his pockets. He looked like a storm waiting to happen. "I thought I'd find you here." "Nice to see you too," I replied, swallowing a lump in my throat. "How did your business meetings go?" "Riveting," he answered, an edge of sarcasm sharpening his voice. "My rivals are hardly the thrilling conversationalists I enjoy." He fell quiet for a moment, studying me like I was a museum exhibit, a mix of fascination and wariness tugging his features. "Are you okay?" I could hear Lila shift behind me, sensing the charged air between us, but how could I answer? I was anything but okay. "Do you really care, Alaric? Or are you just concerned I'll disrupt your plans?" His brow furrowed, and the playful lilt disappeared. "That's not fair, Rebecca. You know." "Do I?" The words slipped from my lips, sharp as broken glass. Do I know you? Do I know your motives? I glanced at Lila, her eyes wide, expecting a fireworks display. Everything I've done has been to keep you safe, to show you. Show me what? My voice trembled with restrained anger. Show me I'm just another pawn in your sad little game? His silence snapped, and tension amped. He stepped too close. You want to accuse me? At least give me credit for being good at my trade. And what's that, Alaric? Threatening people? Eliminating the competition? My heart raced as his shadow enveloped me. I don't want to be part of this web you've spun. Don't you see? He murmured, something raw breaking through his commanding exterior. My life isn't about games. It's about survival. Is my sincerity so unbelievable? I honestly don't know anymore, I hissed, bearing a chasm between us I had never intended. Stop playing the soldier and try right now to be a man. What are you really after? The pulse of the moment crackled with palpable tension. His gaze searched mine, searching for the cracks I tried to hide. And then his resolve shifted. You want honesty? I've let you make me feel. Lila interjected, sensing a storm brewing. Why don't we step inside? Get warm, have a drink. Nothing like hot cocoa to soothe the savage saviors. I wanted to ignore her, to demand answers, but the invitation had struck a nerve. My body craved the comfort of warmth, though not just from the hot cup. Seeing Alaric so close lifted a deep-rooted yearning in me. Against my better judgment, I nodded, falling into step beside him, Lila trailing behind like a cautious observer. Inside, the walls echoed with memories of my childhood. The oppressive treasure of my father's unyielding traditions weighed heavily upon my mind. I glanced around, my gaze catching the sunlight filtering through the old glass panes, bathing the room in golden hues. Rebecca? Alaric's voice was soft as he blended the gentle cacophony of our surroundings with our frayed emotions. Before this sun sets, I need you to believe me. Convince me you don't think I've gone off the deep end. Prove it then, I said, wordless icebergs floating in the space between us. You need to show me you trust me. Not just with your secrets, with yourself. Maybe, he allowed, his voice brushing the air like a fleeting wisp. Maybe I will. As tension grew into an electric current palpable in the air around us, Lila glanced between us and then opened the fridge. I brought leftover cake, just to remind you both of the delights savory people indulge in during tumultuous moments. Delicious, Alaric said dryly. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching me as I busied myself with the cake, and a sense of impending intimacy wrapped around us like a film of dark velvet. You never really appreciate cake unless you're in a moment of awkward tension, do you? I muttered, cutting into the rich layers. Alaric's brow lifted, encircled by playful mischief. And here I thought you were savoring the flavor of your riveting debate about honesty. Clearly, we have different definitions of dessert, I shot back, a hidden smile pulling at the corners of my mouth. Ah, dessert, the great equalizer, Lila chimed, taking a bite and teasing with an exaggerated moan of decadence. Moments bled away into easy laughter, and while I smirked, the empty vessel of doubt still roamed behind my thoughts, lurking. Fueled by cake-induced winds, I turned toward Alaric, my heart drumming a wild, daring rhythm. You think you can waltz right in and turn my life upside down? Make me feel things when you hide from everything? Of course I can. That's part of the charm, he teased, this time, genuine warmth emanating from his smile. But the undercurrent of fear returned. Was it true? Charm only takes you so far, Alaric. You're not kidnapping my heart, you know. Yet, he murmured, intensity reigniting in his gaze. The word hung there like a thriller's cliffhanger. Lila leaned in, whispering mockingly, Maybe you should kidnap her heart, Alaric, she teased, smirking. Save yourself a trip to psychology after the masterpiece that is Rebecca. The charged moment filled with laughter. Laughter that wasn't just a distraction, it was a patch on the festering wound of uncertainty. Alaric caught my eye, and we shared a second that edged too close to intimacy. I dropped my gaze, mind racing with all the revelations I was yet to face. There are layers to your motives, and I'm still searching for the truth. Then let me peel back those layers, he urged, with tangible desire, the air thickening around us. Not until I'm ready, I countered, but the fierce heat of attraction was undeniable, almost consuming in the raw space we created. Then when you are, just know I'll be here, waiting, he replied, and suddenly I wrestled with something unfamiliar. Hope. And in that peal of vulnerability, as tangled as the emotions we both held, the shadows flickered once more at the edges of our hearts. Confusion still simmered beneath my skin, but I knew one truth. This fire between us could singe, but it might also forge something indescribably beautiful. "Let me know if you need me, sweetheart," Leela breakingly teased, glancing between us. "I can serve as a relationship referee, but like a true friend, I'll charge for emergencies." Reaching for yet another slice of cake, I stifled laughter, the lighter moments woven into the fabric of the unsaid truths. Here in this curious garden of fractured shadows, I sensed something heavier deepening in the air. The question remained, could love, however fractured, survive the weight of truth? "Think of what will end up as an elegant abstract in relation to trust," Alaric spoke quietly, his voice wrapping around the very thoughts I feared. I met his gaze, a wildfire unfurling within, warmth battling against ice. "I will someday," I replied, defiance tasting as sweet as the chocolate cake, "but only if you promise to be completely honest." "Easier said than done, Rebecca," he murmured, stepping closer, the space between us pulsing with a charge neither of us could ignore. No matter how the day ended, doubt or desire, I could not deny we were running a wild race toward uncertainty, and together the stakes might just be worth holding on to. Chapter 47. Rival's Scheme Unfolds. It's a shame, really, how swiftly time can change one's perception of worth. Julian leaned against the marble railing of the terrace, the sweeping view of my father's estate sprawling below us like a canvas begging for restoration. The gentle breeze carried a crisp chill, the leaves swaying in a dance choreographed by autumn's arrival. I shoved my hands deeper into the pockets of my wool coat, unwilling to allow him any foothold on my resolve. "Is that your witty way of saying I'm worth less than I thought?" I shot back, attempting to keep my tone light despite the tension prickling my skin. Julian flashed that disarming smile, the kind you see in glossy magazine spreads, always polished and endlessly charming. "No, Rebecca, I believe you're worth more than you know." He stepped closer, his proximity igniting an unwelcome warmth that unfurled in my gut like a morning sun. "But surely you see the company you keep has its own complexities." For a heartbeat longer than I intended, I allowed my gaze to wander to the horizon, where the sun cast a golden hue upon the estate, illuminating its history that so desperately needed revival. Yet the warmth of the fading day contrasted starkly with the chill that enveloped my heart whenever Julian turned his focus on me. "Complexity is one word for it," I replied, trying to mask the tempest inside me. "I prefer authenticity." "Ah, but authenticity can be overrated, can't it? Messy, even." His voice dipped lower as he leaned in conspiratorially, the scent of his cologne, a mix of cedar and something just sweet enough, twisting my insides. "Are you so certain Alaric's truth doesn't carry a heavy crown of thorns?" My heart raced at the mere mention of Alaric. I didn't glance back at his name, or the implications swirling with it. Alaric had been my anchor in this swirling sea of chaos, and Julian's insinuations felt like rip currents pulling me under. "Alaric is—" I paused, unwilling to allow that moment to slip through my fingers. "Complicated, yes, but worth every strand of that complexity." Even as I said it, doubts threatened to lurch forward. Positioned comfortably, I see. Julian straightened, tossing back his head with a light laugh, but his eyes remained deadly serious. "I'd only caution you not to let yourself be overburdened by his shadows, those lurking in the corners of his mind, the ones people tend to ignore." My impatience danced with irritation. "And you think you're the solution?" I retorted, crossing my arms as if blocking some invisible force descending upon us. It sounds rather presumptuous, don't you think? Presumptuous? Julian smiled, his eyes glinting with mischief. A man must take risks in a game of hearts, don't you agree? Especially when someone so gifted as yourself is at stake. Ah, the stakes. Always the stakes. I rolled my eyes, diverting my gaze toward the fountain, water cascading like laughter. What game are you playing, Julian? The one of bright futures, Rebecca. You have the chance to create something extraordinary, far beyond the dilapidated walls of that estate. He gestured grandly toward the sprawling grounds. Your father would have wanted you to reclaim your birthright, not just for preservation, but for the legacy he dreamed of. His words accused me beneath layers of flattery. I took a steady breath, my resolve starting to waver. So you're saying I should disregard my heart's whispers for your brighter dreams? Do you not yearn for something brighter? He pressed, his voice lilting with honeyed intentions, the wind wrapping around us like a silken thread. It's been rumored Alaric can be volatile, an uncertain flame. Just then, Alaric appeared on the interstitial verge of our conversation, casting an imposing shadow over us. His sharp gaze, tempered with an undercurrent of jealousy, passed back and forth between me and Julian. I see the parties moved outside. Julian was simply suggesting some enlightening possibilities, I managed, my voice a little strained, as the tension in the air thickened like smoke, though a knot twisted tightly in my chest, as Alaric's focus narrowed. Possibilities? Alaric's voice held a dangerous edge, tension rippling through the air, electric and antagonizing. Or perhaps obligations cloaked in false pretenses? Julian stood straighter, raising an eyebrow in challenge. Surely your reputation precedes you, Devereaux. Not every opportunity is a threat, but here we stand, drenched in assumptions. Assumptions? Alaric stepped closer, his body language shifting to something raw and commanding. It seems your influence dangerously extends to manipulation, Julian. Now that's quite a claim, Julian replied, feigning innocence while I felt as though a storm was brewing. It swirled around me, pressing heavily against my chest, blurring the lines of tension and attraction. Enough, I interjected, lifting my chin defiantly. Both of you are acting like children arguing over a toy. I am not a bargaining chip, nor a prize to be won. Perhaps, Julian responded smoothly, his voice layered with a hint of mockery. But choices often come with consequences. His eyes flicked meaningfully toward Alaric, who loomed like a thunderhead. Never forget, Julian, a choice made without reflection can cost one dearly, Alaric growled, his voice low and vehement, heartbeats hammering in the air like an impending storm. Should I take that as a warning or a threat? Julian asked, smoothly unfazed, while I felt as though I were teetering between two worlds, a storm surging as dark truths spun like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. Alaric's gaze bore into me with an intensity that quelled the rising tide of uncertainty within. His voice softened, but retained that undercurrent of strength. Rebecca, this is your life, your legacy. These choices define who you are. I felt tethered between them in a cacophony of desires and decisions, caught adrift amid shifting currents. And what if I choose to carve my own path? I asked, desperation flickering in my voice. The vulnerability of the words hung heavily in the air. Then you must be prepared to shield yourself against the thickening shadows, Alaric responded, stepping closer still, the weight of his supposition grounding us in the reality of the moment. The tension between us crackled like the promise of summer thunder. I'd rather embrace the shadows than be blinded by self-righteousness, I retorted, feeling the surge of rebellion push through me. And that was when it exited my lips, a daring step toward self-discovery, and instinct propelled me outward. And I will. Suddenly, Julian interrupted with a laugh, playful and buoyant. Also, it seems as though the weather might help me out. I've always wanted to show you the secrets hidden in the old chapel on stormy nights. Secrets? Or just another ploy? Alaric shot back, wholly distrustful. I think he's offering you an invasion of privacy, I retorted, my laughter puncturing the thickening tension. But I'm curious what you propose, Julian. Julian leaned back, his posture transforming into something receiver-friendly, teasing. Let's just say rain adds a layer of passion and intensity. Why not stow away some moments of our own? The electrifying air twisted between us as Alaric stood still, his expression indecipherable, but the low pitch of his voice burst forth like raw thunder. Let's focus on the plans for tomorrow's opening, Julian. Wasting time here is counterproductive. Is that what this is? Time wasted? I asked boldly, turning my attention back to Julian. I thought we were having a conversation worth having. Ah, but there are diversions, and then there are distractions. Julian shot a glance at Alaric, like a knight daring to compare arms with a dragon. Distractions from what? I posed, my throat dry yet emboldened by discontent. From discovering the real you. Julian's voice softened, his gaze earnest. Before I registered how quickly the clouds overhead began to thicken, Alaric grasped my arm, his touch igniting flames of awareness. Rebecca, you don't need to justify yourself to anyone. It seems you don't know me as well as you claim, Alaric, I countered, my resolve hardening, swirling within me like the storm gathering above. Then enlighten me. His expression remained steady, though the heat of his desire simmered just beneath the surface, pulling at the fabric of our understanding. Maybe I just want to explore, I replied, firm in my decision. Explore with Julian? He challenged, eyebrow raised. Or explore without constraints? I opened my mouth to respond, but the words tangled themselves in my throat. The clouds loomed darker, shadows deepened, and a creeping rain fell from above, each drop resonating with the pulse of my heart agonized. Fine, Julian proclaimed, unabashedly confident. If the storm's a chance to deepen your understanding, both of yourself and your ties, I wish you all the best. Don't you dare succumb to his charisma, Rebecca, Alaric said, the edge of his voice like a blade. It may be dressed as a sweet flower, but it could ensnare your heart. And with that, the rain seized overhead. It cascaded like ever-encroaching passion. I was engulfed, and as the world outside blurred against the electrifying spark of proximity, I realized it wasn't merely the storm that urged me forward. It was the testing ground of my ambition and the undulating swell of desire, spiraling into an exquisite confusion. Then, with no warning, I turned, faced Alaric, reached for the untamed flame that drew us together. What if I told you that discovering myself includes the thrill of uncertainty? Our lips met, and the world around us exploded into passion. Fingers entwined, the heat igniting more than just our bodies, igniting the shadows that danced between us. Then light this fire, he murmured against my mouth, fuller now, more alive with yearning than ever, as the storm we so desperately fought against intensified in fury. But within it, we found our anchoring truth in the soft glow of each other's presence. And as the rain poured around us, each drop echoing the turbulent rhythm of our hearts, I considered the path ahead, the transforming journey of a woman discovering her voice among echoes and shadows. Whatever awaits, I whispered between kisses as the world blurred and collapsed around us. Let it take us. Chapter 48. Confrontation of Intentions. The late afternoon sun poured into the sitting room of my father's estate, illuminating the dust motes swirling like memories both cherished and haunting. The air, heavy with the scent of aged wood and the pungent tang of oil paints from the study next door, felt electric in its stillness. I paced the room, my mind a tempest of emotion, every step echoing the turmoil within. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror above the fireplace. Dark curls spilling over my shoulders, eyes bright with resolve, yet clouded by uncertainty. Was this woman standing confidently in the silks of my father's legacy really me? Or merely a reflection of the chaos Alaric had dragged me into? The door swung open, revealing Alaric Devereaux, the man who'd invaded my thoughts and dreams with a potent mix of passion and fear. From across the room, I could see the way his brow furrowed, a tension emanating from him that was more palpable than the heat in the room. He stepped inside, eyes scanning the space as though he was searching for an exit. "Rebecca," he said, voice low and gravelly, trapping me in his rich timbre. "You wanted to talk." I crossed my arms, the fabric of my blouse tightening against my skin, a reminder of the resolve I needed. "Yeah, I think it's time we had a serious conversation about your intentions." The muscles in his jaw clenched, and a shadow flickered across his face before he masked it with that infuriating charm. Intention can be a tricky word. Isn't it just— "Stop. Don't play games with me, Alaric," I interrupted, my voice sharper than I intended, but the frustration pushed me forward. "You're here and I need to understand what you want, not just from me, but what you really want." His expression remained inscrutable. "What I want is to enhance the experience of life, Rebecca. To have that experience alongside you." He approached, heat radiating from his body that ignited the air between us. "Is that all?" Every word dripped with sarcasm, though a part of me longed for his acknowledgement of the deeper connection forming beneath our banter. "You don't have to lie to me. I know there's something more." Alaric stopped a breath away from me, our eyes locked in a silent battle, the tension thick with unsaid words. "You think you know what this is?" he challenged softly, the vulnerability in his tone surprising me. "What if what I need from you is as complicated as your desire to restore this place?" I felt the weight of his gaze, a mix of intensity and restraint. "And what if it's complicated because you don't want to admit why you need me, Alaric? Why you keep sabotaging my competitors while pretending it's about business rivalry?" My heart raced, the realization digging in like a knife. A flicker of anger flashed in his eyes, tempered by a deeper pain I couldn't quite place. "You're wrong," he said, his voice lower, more intimate. "You have no idea what I've done for you. And yet here I am, fighting to save my father's legacy while you make decisions that affect my future without even consulting me." My words were laced with desperation, a plea for honesty amid the chaos spiraling between us. He stepped back, his arms folding across his chest, a defensive posture. "You have no idea who I am." I took a deep breath, steadying my racing heart, a million thoughts colliding. "Then show me. I want to know, Alaric. I want the truth." He hesitated, the shadows of his past momentarily reflected in his stormy gaze. "You may not like what you find. Try me." The challenge hung in the air like a taut string, waiting to snap. Then, in the blink of an eye, the distance between us closed as he surged forward, trapping me against the fireplace mantel. My heart pounded violently, a rhythm of excitement and fear. "You want to know what I've done? What I'd do for you?" "Don't distract me with seduction, Alaric," I breathed out, though the heat rising between us was intoxicating. "I'm not distracting you. I'm promising you." His voice dropped to a husky whisper, one hand cupping my jaw, his thumb brushing against my cheekbone like a vow. "But you need to be ready to accept it when I reveal the darkness I carry." Just then, the door swung open and Faye burst in, her laughter cutting through the charged atmosphere. "Well, aren't we all cozy? Hope I'm not interrupting anything." I pushed Alaric aside, feeling the heat of his body fade, replaced by the biting chill of regret. "Not at all," I replied, plastering a smile on my face, my heart still thudding from the encounter. "Just discussing the nuances of business." "Right," Faye said, her eyebrows dancing with mischief as she took in our positions and the unspoken tension. "You know, if it's business you're after, there's a sale on disastrous ideas down the street." Alaric chuckled, a low rumble that reminded me of how easily he could shift the mood. "And you, Faye, are an expert on disasters?" "Any day of the week." She shrugged, moving to give me a quick hug before settling on the arm of the couch. "So what's the verdict? Are we launching a full-scale war on your artistic rivals? Or is it just Tinder night? Because I can get behind either." "Very funny," I said, though a shy grin tugged at my lips. Maybe both? Faye glanced between us, realizing the tension had shifted. Did I walk in on something saucy, or is this just a standard Thursday? Next time, maybe knock, I muttered, glaring at her, but mirth danced in my eyes. Alaric resumed his relaxed posture, leaning nonchalantly against the wall, arms crossed. She often interrupts the best moments, doesn't she? Faye tossed her head back and laughed, an infectious sound. What can I say? I am a saving grace. You need someone to keep you both grounded, or else you two will spin so far into each other, we'll need a rescue party to pry you apart. Rescue party? I echoed, raising an eyebrow at her. More like a rescue from the emotional fallout. Alaric smirked, leaning closer to me again, his gaze smoldering. Be careful, Rebecca. You invite chaos every time you pull someone into your orbit. Like you don't thrive in chaos, I shot back, the tension crackling back alive as I fell into his depth. I like good chaos, he replied, that magnetic charm flickering in his eyes. Yours is beautifully unpredictable. Good chaos? Faye interjected, eyes widening with delight. I'm intrigued. What's the plan then? A love potion? An elaborate heist? A tearful ballad? Nothing so dramatic, Alaric said, his voice smooth as silk. Just a little adventure, perhaps. Adventure? I met his gaze, my heart skipping. What do you have in mind? He leaned in, his mouth next to my ear, voice low and inviting. What if we take a drive? Just you, me, and the sunset. Let's escape for a while. You can tell me everything, what you really want for the estate, and I'll show you what I'm willing to do to help. Now you're talking. Faye chimed in, clapping her hands like a kid on Christmas. The two of you gallivanting the countryside, perfect for stirring up some scandal. Scandal might be the only thing that keeps this place alive, I murmured, but even as I said it, my resolve was crumbling in the wake of his unrelenting gaze. Is that what you truly want? Alaric asked, his intensity boring into me. What are you hoping to find? My breath caught, sensing the looming confrontation ahead, the stakes of our budding relationship hanging by a thread. Clarity, I whispered. Determination. I want to reclaim my future, and no more secrets from you. The atmosphere shifted, the laughter fading as we bridged the gap, each of us craving the truth beneath our carefully constructed facades. With a sly grin, Faye winked, sensing the tension had shifted again. I think a drive is exactly what you both need. Just don't forget to buckle up. Alaric might take those curves a little fast. In that moment, my heart raced, not from fear, but from anticipation. The path forward glimmered with uncertainty and promise, our laughter echoing as we began this new chapter, one that would lead us down roads unseen, where love and desire intertwined amidst danger and clarity. Ready? Alaric asked, his voice grounding me in the moment. For whatever it takes, I replied, a new fire igniting within, ready to confront the challenges ahead, armed with clarity and a fierce desire to uncover the truth. And as we stepped toward the door, I couldn't shake the awareness that this confrontation of intentions would surely change everything. Chapter 49, The Unraveling. How can you still think you can protect me? The wind whips through the dimly lit dining room of my father's estate, snapping the sheer curtains like angry spirits. I leaned against the heavy oak table, breathless from a mix of frustration and adrenaline. Alaric stood across from me, his eyes dark as storm clouds, a tension crackling in the air between us. That's the point, Rebecca, he said, his voice low, almost a growl. You're immersed in a world you barely understand, and my enthusiasm for your safety isn't up for debate. I gestured toward the window, where the heavens had opened, spilling cold rain in a rhythmic cacophony against the glass. Enthusiasm? Is that what you call it? Because it feels more like control. Alaric pushed himself off the wall, stepping toward me with the stealth of a predator sizing up its prey. My heart raced, not out of fear, but an intoxicating thrill that always trailed him, a barely bridled energy between us. Control or protection? It's the same coin. But you refuse to see the danger outside these walls. I can't let you be another victim of the chaos I've chosen to engage in. Chaos you've brought into my life, I shot back, my hands balled into fists at my sides. I was just trying to restore this place into something beautiful, a tribute to my father. And instead, I'm caught up in your petty power struggles. Petty? He snapped, a flash of flame igniting his irises. You think it's trivial that our lives are at stake? Every time you tread closer to your competitors? He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. You put yourself in harm's way. What do you expect me to do? Stand by and watch? I rolled my eyes despite the fluttering in my chest. And that's your excuse for the sabotage? Because you think I'm too delicate to handle? I'm not some prize to be won in your twisted game. He stepped closer, the heat radiating from him almost palpable. No, you're a player in this game, whether you realize it or not. And it's a dangerous one. Where are the lines, Rebecca? Where do I end, and where do you begin? Maybe you should ask yourself who the real enemy is, I replied, crossing my arms defiantly. At that, he let out a low, dark laugh that sent ripples of excitement and apprehension down my spine. You think you know me well enough to make that call? I can be both your greatest ally and your worst nightmare. He took another step forward, and I could feel the electric pull drawing us together as the rain hammered louder against the roof like a battle cry. Or another man who uses my ambition against me, I whispered, barely able to keep the tremor out of my voice. Our eyes locked, a heavy breath drawn between us. There was a silence, pregnant with everything unsaid. And then the tension snapped like a taut string, and he reached out for me, his fingers curling around my wrist like a warm shackle. Come here, he commanded softly. I didn't resist. I couldn't. He pulled me into him, our bodies just inches apart. The smell of his cologne mingled with the scent of rain, a heady mix that chased away the chill creeping through the room, replaced by something far more heated. I met his bold gaze, a clashing storm of desire and argument. Each longing heartbeat a reminder of the fire smoldering beneath our words. Alaric, I began, but then he captured my lips with his, silencing my protests and any reservations I still clung to. It was a fierce kiss, as if he were staking a claim, a possessive urgency in every motion. I melted into him, my body responding with an eagerness that both thrilled and terrified me. A part of me wanted to break away, to remind him that we were still at odds, but the deeper part, a part starved for connection, held me captive. When we finally parted, breathless, I tilted my head back, struggling to gather my thoughts. We can't only exist in these moments, Alaric. The world isn't going to stop spinning because we want to. Stop, he interrupted. If we're honest, neither of us wants that. We thrive in this tension. It's who we are. Always battling, always wanting. We're in the middle of a storm, I pressed, the reality of our situation crashing back in with the rain. I'm just trying to save my father's estate. I won't let you distract me with passion. Then why do you respond to me like this? He cocked a brow, every word emphasized by the raw energy still pulsing between us. Because I can't help it. My cheeks flushed with heat. You infuriate me, Alaric. You're maddening and infuriatingly charming at the same time. A smile ghosted his lips, tantalizing yet knowing, as though he could hear the inner war raging within me. Charm can lead to distraction, but it can also lead to collaboration. Think about it, Rebecca. I stepped back, breaking the connection, and the cold air rushed back in. Collaboration or manipulation? The moment soured, and the warmth in his eyes dimmed, shadows flickering across his face, as if the storm had darkened the very essence of him. You really think I would cause you harm? That I would leverage our connection against you? Can you really blame me? I shot back, hurt laced in my voice. Just then, the door swung open with a bang, illuminating the space with a flash of lightning, and in walked Jenna and Malik, rain-soaked and arguing over umbrellas like a comedy duo straight out of a ridiculous play. "Can we talk splashed and drenched, or do we need a pool?" Jenna quipped, shaking her hair like a wet dog. "What's going on in here?" "It smells like tension, sexy looks, and stormy romance," she teased, her eyes dancing between us. "Please don't." I waved my hand, attempting to dismiss them. But Malik raised an eyebrow, a cheeky grin spreading across his face. "Oh, we're talking stormy romance, are we?" he chimed in, crossing his arms with amusement. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything, like," he leaned in conspiratorially, "a declaration of love." I shot Alaric an exasperated glance as he merely smirked. "Yes, actually, declaring my love for silence right about now." Jenna laughed, collapsing into a chair. "You're both absurd, but please continue. We all love a good drama unfolding. I've been looking for entertainment since the torrential downpour started." "Careful what you wish for," I warned, even as they leaned in, enchanted by the push and pull that had just transpired between Alaric and me. Alaric's posture shifted slightly, his commanding air returning, but I could still sense the electricity beneath it all. "Stay if you want, but don't be surprised if you get swept up in the chaos," he said, looking between us, but his gaze seemed to linger longer on me. "Chaos?" "Psh!" Jenna waved dismissively. "You're doing it wrong if you're not inviting chaos into your life. It's exciting. Who wants routine?" "Right," Malik nodded thoughtfully, crossing his arms. "Routine is for the unadventurous, no? I say stir the pot." I rolled my eyes as a wave of laughter spilled out, the strangely welcome distraction breaking through the dark clouds hanging over the room. But as Jenna began animatedly recounting her escapade with the rain, what had begun as a picturesque afternoon vision of art turned into mud-splashing mischief. I caught Alaric's gaze, the air around us still thick with longing. Something inside me stirred anew, a tether pulling me closer to him despite the chaos he hurled my way. It wasn't just the storm outside, it was the struggle within, the mix of ambition and desire, protective instincts and stubborn independence. Then Jenna's laughter filled the space again, buoyant even amidst uncertainty, a reminder of the power of friendship against the raging winds. "All right, enough of this romance," Jenna declared, flipping her hair again. "I'm starving. Who wants dinner? Let's do this weather right." Leaning back against the table, I couldn't stifle the smile creeping onto my face. "At least chaos can come with good food," I countered. Alaric sidled up beside me, and a good companion. "Stop pretending," I said, playful. "Friends first. Lovers can wait." "But are you certain about that?" he murmured, and I shivered from both the heat of his words and the ensuing storm. The night ripe with further temptations, veering unpredictably between comfort and peril. I searched his eyes, and for a moment the world outside faded, leaving only the cadence of rain against glass and the subtle laughter of our friends, lingering like a melody. But as the winds roared outside, a flicker of doubt threaded through me. Would I truly be safe, not just from the threat swirling outside, but from the tempest within us both? And as if reading my thoughts, Alaric leaned close, our breaths mingling amidst the roar. "Only if you choose to fight for what you want." Could I fight for what I wanted when my heart was so embroiled in chaos? As the rain poured mercilessly down, I couldn't help but wonder, how much longer until everything unraveled? Chapter 50. Dangerous games. I lay on the cool marble floor of the art gallery, my fingers tracing delicate patterns in the dust that had settled like a fine veil over the tiles. An unsettling mix of tranquility and tension hung in the air, the muted colors of the paintings casting shadows that danced around me. The gallery had always been my sanctuary, but today it felt more like a battlefield. "Rebecca?" A voice laced with warmth and mischief pulled me from my reverie. Alaric stood at the entrance, framed by the harsh light spilling in from the midday sun. His presence filled the room, bringing with it an electric energy that crackled against my skin. "Just contemplating," I replied, pushing myself onto my elbows. I tried to muster a smile, but it faltered, exposing the chaos swirling inside me. The gallery was my refuge, a reminder of my father's dreams. Yet I felt as if it might crumble any moment under the weight of my father's legacy and Alaric's demands. Contemplating who you'd like to banish first? He strode closer, a playful grin breaking the tense silence. I'd suggest the Moretti twins. They're less of a challenge if you strike when they least expect it. I chuckled despite the heaviness in my chest. I'm not running a medieval kingdom here. I'm just trying to save a family estate. But even my own words sounded strained, like a poorly tuned instrument. They won't give up easily. His tone shifted, the lightness replaced by an undercurrent of seriousness. You know this isn't just about art, Rebecca. They want control. Control? I echoed, frustration simmering beneath the surface. It always seems so simple for you. You see the game as a series of moves. I see. I paused, lowering my gaze to the floor decorated with elaborate inlays from another era. I see my family's history at stake. History isn't what's at stake. It's your future, he declared, his voice dropping to a near whisper as he stepped into the gallery, closing the space between us. The air crackled, charged with unsaid wishes and the lingering tension that had become our currency. Always helping me to the edge all of a sudden, Alaric? I glared at him, my heart racing, not from fear, but anticipation. The quiet intensity of our exchanges often disarmed me, leaving me breathless and wanting. Did I really want to cross that line? I drew in a deep breath, letting the scent of aged wood and linseed oil anchor me. I can't control everything. His eyes darkened as he crouched beside me. But you can control what happens next. You're not your father's shadow. You're Rebecca. You have more fire than all this old stone could ever provide. Fire, I repeated, almost bitterly. Is that what you see? Beneath the dust and the despair? His hand brushed against mine, just a ghost of contact, yet it sent a surge of heat coursing through me. I see someone who will deliver a reckoning to those who underestimate her. Indeed, I replied, my voice thick with irony. And what should I do with the Moretti twins? Buy them out with charm. Alaric chuckled, his humor a ripple in the heavy atmosphere. But then he looked at me, with a seriousness that pulled the corners of my heart tight. You don't always need charm. Sometimes power is persuasive enough. Before I could respond, the echoing voice of Trina, one of my ambitious art assistants, broke into our brief moment of isolation. Rebecca, the Moretti twins just stepped into the main gallery. They've been gossiping about your recent auctions. Seems they're hunting for blood. Lovely, I muttered, the weight of their scheming pressing down like a thick blanket. There was something electric about being challenged, like standing on a precipice. Yet, as I took in Alaric's intense gaze, I felt a twinge of hesitation, the nagging fear of the repercussions of our connection. I suppose it's showtime. Let's make it unforgettable, Alaric replied, standing fully and extending a hand to help me up. His body radiated warmth, anchoring my swirling uncertainties. There was something about our partnership that both thrilled and terrified me. As we stepped back into the bright gallery, the Moretti twins lounged like royalty in a sea of pastel colors and vibrant art pieces. Their sneering smiles reminded me of serpents poised to strike. Ah, Rebecca. So lovely to see you battling the dust bunnies, said Livia Moretti, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. Doesn't it make you nostalgic for the days when you weren't so consumed with failed attempts at auction? Better than lurking in the shadows, Livia. You should know, shadows aren't great company, I snapped, crossing my arms defiantly. Careful, Rebecca, chimed in Corin, Livia's equally venomous twin. That fire of yours could end up blazing out of control. I'll take that as a compliment, I shot back, locking eyes with Alaric, who stood shoulder to shoulder with me, a silent promise of support heavy between us. You could use it wisely, Alaric added, voice low enough for only the three of us to hear. Or you could let it consume you. Which will it be? You seem to know a thing or two about being consumed. Livia's smirk widened. Are you two an item now? The whispered speculation lodged itself like a knife in the air. Tension crackled as I glanced at Alaric, hiding my uncertainty behind a facade of calm determination. "We're here for business, Livia, not gossip." "Business indeed," Livia agreed with mock tranquility. "You mean the kind that leaves nothing untouched?" She turned to Alaric, her tone oozing suggestiveness. "If anyone can help you spice up numbers, it's him. Just look at how he spreads scandalous charm." "Is that what you call it?" Alaric replied, unshaken, leaning casually against a pillar, as if he were viewing a particularly mundane work of art. "More like a fire extinguisher. You wouldn't know much about it, would you?" The remark sparked a tangible shift in the atmosphere. My heart raced, the stakes rising with every shred of their insipid banter. It wasn't just the gallery that felt charged. It was our chemistry, the electric pull between Alaric and me that intensified with every challenge. "Oh, we know plenty," Corin said, a flicker of challenge igniting in his dark eyes. "Just as we know Rebecca's propensity for miscalculations. You've made quite the splash, dear, but it might drown in shallow waters." "Enough with the metaphors," Alaric snapped, cutting him off, voice steady yet dangerously low. Any more of their prattle would only trigger the growing tempest stirring beneath my resolve. "Charming as ever, Alaric," Livia said sweetly, tilting her head. "But we know what you really want, what you're really after in this little charade." "Do enlighten us, Livia," I challenged, stepping forward to meet her stare, temper simmering. "What is it you think I'm here for?" "Cleverness won't save you from your own lies, Rebecca," Corin said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper meant only for us. "Everyone knows how you're leveraging your father's estate, like a pawn on a chessboard. But the game has rules, and we have a few surprises of our own lined up." A silence stretched between us, thickened by the unfiltered tension that settled like fog. Alaric turned towards me, eyes fierce, bordering on protective, and I could feel that heat surging back, a wild blend of defiance and desire coursing through our connection. "We'll see just how powerful the Queen can be, won't we?" I replied sharply, defiance rising and breaking the tension like a triumphant shout. My pulse raced, not only from the argument, but from Alaric's steady gaze, holding me, challenging me, igniting something in me I could no longer contain. "Oh, this is just delightful," Livia sneered, feigning enthusiasm in a way that grated on every nerve. "The two of you against the world. How romantic." "Enough," Alaric raised an eyebrow, a hint of mischief creeping into his imposing demeanor. "We'll see who gets the last laugh, and trust me, it won't be you." As the twins hissed at our brazen confidence, I leaned forward, locking eyes with Alaric. "Then let's give them a show." "Wrap it up, you two," Corin warned, eyes narrowing. "Do remember that not all games are played in the light." "Thank you for the reminder, Corin," I replied, my voice low but laced with challenge. "I'm well aware." As the Moretti slithered off, leaving the tempestuous atmosphere thick with mirthless tension, I felt Alaric's presence beside me, a storm and a calm all at once. "Rebecca, you need to breathe." He angled toward me, our breaths mingling in the charged space between us. "Do I?" I meet his gaze, breathing him in, the tension like a tightrope strung between us. "Because I feel alive for the first time in ages." "Then let's own this," he whispered, his voice resonating with an intensity that left me shaken. "We're in this together." Together. The word pulsed between us, igniting a flame I didn't even realize had begun to smolder. It was an invitation, an acknowledgement, and it transcended mere partnership. Alaric swept me into his arms, and if trouble comes knocking, let's just say I'm very good at keeping the door shut. "Alaric," I trailed off, caught between exuberance and temptation. "Promise me you'll keep that fire alive, Rebecca, because we're in for a challenge." "I promise." I leaned closer, the world around us dripping away in a haze of passion and urgency. And in that moment, as his lips met mine and the plot thickened, reality unfurled like a masterpiece under our very hands. Chapter 51, The Challenge of Love. I stood in the grand hall of Ravenswood Estate, staring at the thick spears of rain slashing against the arched windows, each drop echoing the chaos swirling in my mind. The air was heavy with that damp, earthy aroma, the kind that seeped into your clothes and reminded you of long-forgotten things. My fingers clutched at the tattered edge of the ancient tapestry hanging beside me, its once vibrant colors dulled and fraying. Each fiber seemed to absorb the intensity of this moment, just as I absorbed the weight of my dilemma. Rebecca, are you going to just stand there and stare until the walls give out? Eve's voice broke through the tension, sharp as the sound of thunder rolling in the distance. She was perched on a rickety wooden ladder, precariously trying to adjust the floodlights we'd strung up for the upcoming gala. A rescue mission for the estate, as I like to call it. Her laughter bubbled over, contrasting sharply with my anxious stillness. I'm just introspecting, she finished, corking an eyebrow at me. I thought we agreed to put the intense brooding on hold while we bring this place back to life. The drama can wait. Eve had a knack for extracting me from my whirlpools of thought, but today I was less inclined to humor her. You don't understand what it's like, Eve. This isn't just about the gala or the estate. It's about everything, about Alaric. I added his name hesitantly, as though it might summon him from the shadows uninvited. Ah. She put her hands on her hips and leaned in, intrigue lighting her hazel eyes.